The Mayor has had to send his apologies for this meeting. For full council, therefore, I as Deputy Mayor will lead the meeting this evening. But we start on a very sad and sombre note tonight. It is with great sadness that I report the passing of Alderman George Simons. George served Peterborough City Council as a councillor for a total of 12 years, split over 2 terms of office, during which time he provided outstanding service to this council. George was an active and well-respected councillor, serving the Stanground ward from 1988 until 1996. He also served in Paston ward from May 2010 until May 2014. George was also appointed as the city's first citizen of Peterborough in 2012-13, raising over £47,000 for those nominated charities that year. He was appointed an honorary alderman also in 2019. And by way of an update, the funeral of George will be taking place at Peterborough Crematorium on Thursday, the 19th of December at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd like us now to invite us all to observe a minute's silence in memory of George, and I think we should stand for this, folks. Thank you all very much. Please be seated again. At this point, I'd now like to welcome the Mayor's chaplain, Father Seelan, who will be saying prayers this evening. Thank you, Father.
I pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on the items before them. May every decision be righteous in your sight, for our benefit and for your glory.
Thank you, Father, and thank you. Members, I will now hand over to Daniel Snowden, Democratic and Constitutional Services Manager, to go through some housekeeping points for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. To all present, please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent. In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the doors on your right side of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. For those members of the public joining us in the Borges-Viersen room, please exit the room and turn left, following council staff to the assembly point. As per Council Standing Order 28.1, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Deputy Mayor has confirmed that when addressing the chamber, he is happy for members to stand or stay seated, whichever you feel the most comfortable. All votes will be taken via the electronic voting system. If a recorded vote is requested, this will be taken in the normal way. There is a point of document. If you wish to raise a point, please raise the pink document and address the Deputy Mayor accordingly, stating which point you are raising. Finally, I would remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please make sure that when you speak, you're using the microphone. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
And thank you, Daniel. So we'll move to agenda item number 1 as we swiftly move through this evening. I want to get it all over very quickly because I think the meter is running outside. Rachel, are there any apologies for absence tonight?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I have apologies from Mayor Sereste, Councillors Ayres, Bisbee and Jenkins. Thank you.
Anybody else with any other declarations of absence or notifications?
Declaration of interest on
No, we haven't got
9.1.
that. That's next.
Oh, sorry.
Just in terms of absence, anybody else missing that we don't know about? Councillor Antunes, well, he's not apologised, so we'll just note him as missing. He may be late. He has reported. Okay, he has notified. Oh, here he is. Speak of the devil. We should all clap. Okay, at this point, agenda item number 2. Are there any declarations of interest from members and officers this evening which are not already recorded separately or on their individual register of interests?
Myself, I have a declaration of interest.
Would you like to say what it is?
I'm an operator and taxi driver, and it's for section 9A, to the best of my knowledge.
Fine, I think that's duly noted. I think you will be leaving
Yes.
the chamber at that point. Anybody else got any declarations of interest? Can't see any of those. Thank you very much for that. So agenda item number 3 is the approval of the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July and the 16th of October. Do I have a proposer for that? Sorry, seconder, I should say. Sorry, Dennis. I was looking at you and thinking of me.
I'm happy to second, Mr.
Okay,
Deputy
thank
Mayor.
you very much. I think there's no other notes on those or corrections. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving swiftly on, agenda item number 4. So there's lots that Marco's been up to, and of course I've also, with my Deputy Mayoress, we went to see Ralph at the Peterborough Gang Show and had a good time last weekend, and it's great also to attend the appeal of the Poppy Appeal launch a couple of weeks ago. So we as deputies have also been doing. Marco's got a whole list of things which I'm sure he'll tell you about at the next meeting. But just by way of an update, you're welcome to join the Mayor of Peterborough, Councillor Marco Celeste, together with the President of the Peterborough branch of the Royal British Legion, who will be laying a holly wreath at the War Memorial in the period leading up to Christmas. This short service is on Thursday the 19th, commencing at 10 a.m. outside at the War Memorial. And finally, it's not too late for those that are watching I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of here. We won't have a show of hands, but I know there's a fair few, to join the Right Reverend Richard Coles, who, for those that don't know, is Andy Cole's brother, who is with us in the chamber tonight. He's holding a literary lunch at the Holiday Inn on Saturday the 14th of December in aid of the Mayor's charities and also the launch of his book. So contact Sue in the Mayor's office if you like to squeeze in there in a couple of weeks' time. By the way, you might even win. But there we go. So that's just my way of updates. So we'll move on to agenda item number 5 quickly. Councillor Dennis Jones, I understand that you wish to make announcements this evening. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like to begin by highlighting and welcoming 2 important government announcements which could bring huge benefits for our council and our city. The first relates to the underfunding of local councils, a major issue that is largely ignored by central government for over a decade. I'm pleased to see this government understand the issues and taking steps to address an outdated and inefficient funding system, recognising the vital role that council plays in providing important services for residents. Too many councils have so far failed financially, issuing Section 114 notices, with many, like ours, getting through by the skin of their teeth. The message from government is that they are listening, and a number of measures were announced last week in the local government finance policy statement which sends hope for a brighter future. A future where councils get the funding they need to provide important services for a growing and more complex population. Local authorities such as ours with social care responsibilities will get the largest core spending power increase in 25-26. That's the money we're allocated per person to deliver services. Resources will also be directed towards authorities with higher levels of deprivation and less able to generate council tax income. And there will be extra funding for the increase in employers' national insurance contributions. Promising news is there will also be a new Children's Services Prevention Grant which should support our work to reduce spiralling levels of demand in this area. There will be a full package of funding reforms in 26-27, and this will be the start of a multi-year settlement where councils can properly plan the delivery of services longer term. We should find out more of this on the 19th of December. In further good news, Peterborough in Cambridgeshire has been chosen by the government as one of the youth trailblazers to be established across the country. The Trailblazers project, unveiled by Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall during a visit to Peterborough College last week, is part of a £240 million national package of reforms to help more people out of economic activity and into employment. As one of just eight regions selected for the Youth Guarantee Trailblazer, Peterborough in Cambridgeshire is set to play a key role in pioneering a new approach to support 18 to 21-year-olds who are currently NEET, not in education, employment or training. The announcement comes with extra money, details to follow. Staying on the subject of education and skills, I'm delighted to share with you that the third phase of our prestigious AR University building was officially opened by student Kelly De Jesus last week. The lab features some of the most cutting-edge university facilities in the country. It's a wonderful addition to the growing university campus and will be used to stimulate and inspire more people into STEM subjects. These are skills that local employers are crying out for, and which will help our residents get better jobs, increase their wages and boost the city's financial wealth for years to come. A big up for our highways team whose efforts have earned national recognition. The council has been ranked the third best performing highways authority in the country in this year's National Highways and Transport Survey, which asks residents for their views on these services. This is a testament to the hard work of our team, and congratulations to them. I must also thank our outreach team for letting me, Chief Executive Matt Gladstone and Councillor Alison Jones tag along for the annual Rough Sleeper count on a cold night last month. The count takes place every autumn, creating a snapshot of rough sleeping across the country. Figures are released in the new year. It was an eye-opening night and gave me first-hand experience of the team's fantastic and often difficult work. Officers are out and about in all conditions, usually when most people are tucked up in bed, offering vital support for people sleeping rough and a pathway out of it. We're doing some great work with partners to support homeless people and rough sleepers in Peterborough, particularly in the colder months. Finally, I had a fantastic time at the recent Lights Switch On events at the end of November. If you saw me bopping along to Slade, you know what I mean. Seeing the city centre packed with hundreds of people enjoying themselves and then the spectacularly lit up was an amazing experience. A big thank you to everyone involved, including our sponsors and everybody who came along on the night. Early in November, we held events to commemorate Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day. It's vitally important that we remember those who have served their country, and I want to thank everybody who came along and paid their respects. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
And thank you. 2 seconds, Dennis. Marvellous. So, group leaders, I've agreed to extend the time you'll have to respond to a maximum of 2 minutes each. Councillor Farouk, do you want to start?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Our Peterborough First Independent Group welcomes government paper on local financial settlement and extra funding it is likely to bring to our very underfunded City Council. For too long, Mr. Deputy Mayor, governments in Westminster have been cutting funds while the demand has been increasing, depriving our vulnerable from receiving the services they have been entitled to. Extra funding for increase in national insurance contribution is also welcomed, perhaps nothing to celebrate though, as the government has taken one hand and given back very little in the other. We also welcome the news that government has chosen our region for Youth Guarantee Trailblazer, supporting our 18 to 21-year-olds. While in administration, Mr. Deputy Mayor, last year we were working towards delivering youth zones in our city. Although this current scheme does not go as far enough, but nevertheless it's a right step in the right direction. We urge administration to deliver the youth zones for our city, which will improve our children's services significantly. The opening of new lab at ARU is another step in the growth of our university. We will work across the chamber to deliver our Peterborough University. Our congratulations go to our highway team for once again achieving the accolades. We thank the homeless team for all the hard work they do with our city's homeless people.
Mr. Farouk, Councillor Steve Allen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. In response to the Leader's announcement, I must agree too many councils have failed financially, are under threat of 114 notices, or are just getting by. Indeed, the quest for fairer funding was an issue I found being promoted by the Conservative administration under John Holditch shortly after being elected years ago, so not much changes, hey? It's heartening to learn that the government are listening, though, and as an authority with social care responsibilities and a growing population, that this can be addressed. The Children's Services Prevention Grant is also, of course, welcome, as is extra funding to assist with the burden of increased employers' national insurance contributions. Of course, in welcoming the extra funding, I don't need to guess where the money is coming from. I'm sure it has some connection with withdrawal of winter fuel allowance and the changes to the family farm arrangement. So cold pensioners and failed farm businesses no doubt will have their own reason to be less than enthusiastic. I'm delighted to welcome the Trailblazers project. I'm sure that across the chamber we are acutely aware of the long-term concerns regarding the 18 to 21-year-old trapped in the NEET cohort. We look forward to details of the new money promised to enable the project to succeed. The continued success of the ARU is to be applauded. This great success for the city, initiated by our Conservative administration, of course, is to be further enhanced is the word I'm trying to get out, by the opening of the Living Lab. Living Labs are an exciting concept, incubating the development of innovations, new ideas, technologies, practices that are applied in real-world environments. And this opening keeps the university on track to bringing further educational advancement opportunities to our city. I must join you in congratulating the Highways team on another accolade. This is testament to their continued achievement with what appears to be a place in the top 3 every year. Keep up the good work, guys. Good to be in the winner's circle for Peterborough. As you say,
Councillor
it's indeed eye-opening.
Councillor Allen, wrap up, please.
Sorry?
2 minutes are up, please.
It's up, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll conclude.
Well, if you've
then.
got a line, say your line, but other than that.
No, I've got about 4 more lines, so perhaps I shall leave it out. Let me just say, the work of our outreach officers and charities, such as the Lightwood Project and the Soup Kitchen, should never be underappreciated. And with regard to those who find themselves on the street, particularly these winter months. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor Christian.
Mayor,
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Leader, for your announcements. It's truly encouraging to hear that we are now have a government that is prepared to look at local government seriously. For as long as I've been a councillor, the pleas to government fell on deaf ears, including the Stand Up for Peterborough campaign that I believe the Conservatives had a go at some expense to the council, I hasten to add. I'm particularly heartened by the news that we are looking to introduce multi-year settlements, and I'm sure that the accountants in the room would be particularly looking at that as with good thoughts. Pave way to better medium-term financial planning. I'll try not to get too excited, though, and wait to see the actual detail as it emerges, specifically in the national insurance funding, as to whether it only accounts for council employees or also account for the increasing costs from council commission services too. I have some good news also to share. I'm pleased to announce that Vivacity Premier Fitness has now got the largest number of members in its history. So congratulations to the whole team there for an incredible result. I would also like to remind people that Flag Fen is currently hosting a very special visitor prior to his big day. Sadly, if you've not already booked, all appointments to see Father Christmas are now taken, but you can still visit and meet the team in the front of the big man. I am, of course, referring to his team of reindeers. Actual reindeers will be there for you to look at, and I think that would be an amazing experience for the children and maybe even some adults too. As this is the last full council meeting before Christmas, I'd like to pay tribute to all our hard-working staff across the council. We may have an annual staff awards that give recognition...
Councillor Hogg, but do finish.
Just 2 seconds, thank you. The annual staff awards that give recognition to some of our staff, but you know, it's everybody within the staff, the staffing team, the officers, and obviously the Peterborough Limited staff. We shouldn't forget the contribution that all staff make to the lives of our residents. Hopefully our residents can enjoy a good Christmas period and look forward to a better new year.
Ooh, I think that was more than Steve, but it's nearly Christmas. Councillor Nicola Day.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. So the Green Group welcome the Leader's announcement that the Government are taking steps to address an outdated and inefficient funding system. We will be paying close attention as a group and hope that Peterborough is allocated the fair funding it deserves. We must also be mindful of this as we look at making savings currently to our public services. Once we've lost some services, we won't get them back again. Congratulations to the Highways team for being ranked 3rd best performing highways authority in the country. The Greens would also like to thank the Museum for hosting the Palestine Culture Exhibition and for PSC for organising the exhibition. It was well attended and gave an insight into the history and culture of the Palestinian people. The museum will also be hosting a St Nicholas Day celebration this Saturday from 10:30 to 3 p.m, hosted by the Peterborough Ukrainian community, offering a unique cultural experience filled with joy for all ages. It's great to see such an array of Christmas events, fairs and light switch-ons in our communities. Yesterday I attended the TDT Schools Choir performance at the Cathedral, and it was wonderful to see all schools represented with hundreds of parents and families supporting their children at that event. Culture and the arts are very important, and we welcome the question from Metal Culture about working together more collaboratively with the Council in regards to arts and culture. It is inspiring to see our leader, cabinet member and chief executive take part in the annual rough sleep account. Credit to the officers involved in this challenging work with the most vulnerable people in our communities. The Greens support all this vital work, from homelessness support to families struggling with cost of living crises and our elderly. And this also includes newly arrived asylum seekers and refugees. Greens wish all vulnerable people in times of difficulty and crisis are supported. Finally, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a restful break and a good New Year. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Swiftly through those. It's always heartening to hear some of the things that all the leaders say. I can relate to a number of them. I've been to the cinema, the new cinema. I think the chief exec has been as well. And also I went to the Living Lab. So a lot of great stuff going on in the city, and it's all good to be positive. We're all friends, aren't we? So there we go. Now then, I'll move to agenda item number 6, which is questions with notice by members of the public, which are always great to have members of the public taking part in our meetings. And there have been 2 questions submitted by members tonight, members of the public that is, to this meeting. So I'll take question 1 from Miss Anita Nayar.
Oh, great. Perfect. So the question is, what steps will the City Council put in place to work more collaboratively with city culture organisations to our mutual benefit as a city? So I asked this question to council members who came to meet us at Chauffeur's Cottage, and I extend it to all portfolio holders and indeed the administration now. The leader of the council and the portfolio holder for art and culture came to meet producers, filmmakers, artists, community arts organisations who are all resident at Metal Culture in Chauffeur's Cottage last month in a meeting also attended by the Peterborough Cultural Alliance. This was a welcome first step in an effort to move forward and to work better together. They heard how the £5 million funding streams that Metal Culture residents bring into the city are spent, welcoming new communities, creating successful cohesion projects, pride in place, increasing well-being, developing creative and digital literacy in schools, investing in new talent and funding productions that set a really positive city brand for Peterborough across the UK and abroad, as well as making the city centre and the wards interesting places to visit, boosting the local economy. They also heard how the sudden eviction has negatively impacted those same funding streams, with a knock-on impact for each of those programme areas. Funders increasingly want to see joined up working with local authorities. The unexpected eviction from Chauffeur's Cottage has damaged some funders' belief that the City Council values and supports art and culture, and a lack of space for residents to move to in the short term has impacted programme delivery, which will have a further knock-on impact on trust to invest in the city. The council are actively seeking a new property for Metal Culture, and we as arts organisations would like to look to the future now and see how we work better together towards shared goals and funding streams that benefit us all. With a looming black hole in the council budget, I hope we have shown how we bring in independent funding streams, meeting key policy goals. And we have a wealth of knowledge and evidence to attract investors and inform work that meets collective goals. We are part of the solution.
Thank you very much. I'll just remind people asking questions you'll have three minutes both to ask a question and respond, and in supplementaries it's 2, just for the benefit of those that perhaps might not know. Councillor Alison Jones, would you like to respond to that question?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Anita, for your question. Firstly, I would like to say that I thoroughly enjoyed visiting yourselves to have a greater understanding of the amazing work you undertake in the city for arts and culture. As stated, we are always delighted to meet up and hear of future projects you are undertaking. The Council does value and support metal and other local cultural organisations within the city, and I hope the ongoing work to offer alternative location backs this up. We are facing very challenging times currently, but we also understand the value culture brings to the city, not just in the form of grant funding, but also to add value to communities celebrating cultures and history, along with supporting the growth and regeneration of Peterborough. We have more national portfolio organisations in the city than ever before, and this is because of the amazing work the cultural sector delivers locally. Arts Council England have highlighted Peterborough as a priority place under their 10-year strategy, partly due to the city's diversity, deprivation, underinvestment historically, and the opportunities ahead, fully supported by the Council. It must also be noted the City Council delivers many culture and heritage services within the city. The museum, the art gallery and Flag Fen Archaeology Park. So thank you for stating that you are and will be part of the solution, not the problem. This will ensure the continued contribution metal bring to the city and its residents. Be assured the Council is committed to continue to support the culture and heritage sectors in the city, working with local groups and communities in recognition of its importance that it brings to us. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Do you have a supplementary question? In which case I wish to correct myself, you have 1 minute. It's the answer to the question that is 2. Okay? 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you so much for recognising the various portfolios that Culture and Arts supports. In the follow-up question, I'd just like to ask for 3 commitments, if I may. The first commitment is to work closely with the Peterborough Cultural Strategy, so that the Peterborough Cultural Alliance is the strategic body for culture in the city, and they are about to host a series of workshops where they'll be assessing progress on the cultural strategy and identifying collaborative opportunities to work better together. So that's the first one. The second commitment I'd like to ask is to just share and align on priorities. So commit to meeting with leaders of different cultural organisations where you can work collaboratively across and share what your priorities are and the administration's priorities are across some of those different areas you've mentioned, broader than cohesion, going into growth and regeneration, social mobility, public health, education. And the final one is learn with us. So you know that we hold a wealth of research data on what works and what doesn't in terms of social mobility, cohesion, health outcomes.
Your time is up, so if you could wrap up.
So join us for that. Those are the 3 commitments I'd like to ask for.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, you can certainly have our assurance on that. And as I said, it was really interesting to see what you're doing. And again, I would like to continue to work with you on that and understanding better so that I can share that with the colleagues as I do. So, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We'll move to question 2 from Mr. Nick Sanford, former councillor, Alderman Sanford, here today. It's always a pleasure to see you back in the chamber, Nick. If you'd like to ask your question, it'd be great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The Paston Farm Centre has for quite a long time provided vital community services to one of the most socially deprived areas of Peterborough. The services it provides include a community cafe and a community fridge, which ensure that local people can access nutritious food either free or at an affordable price. Yet for over 12 months, the Paston Farm Centre has been under threat of possible closure as part of the Council's Community Assets Review Programme. So, could the Cabinet member make a statement on the future of Paston Farm and tell me how the Council intends to ensure that the vital services that Paston Farm actually offers are enabled to continue?
I believe Councillor Jamil is going to pick this one up.
Thank you, Mr. Sanford, for your question. The Estates team has continued to review the options for Paston Farm Community Centre, and we are currently working very closely with the Peterborough Police Amateur Boxing Club, who occupy part of the site. Unfortunately, attempts to engage with the management and trustees of the committee of the community centre has and continues to prove difficult due to their unwillingness to communicate with us and the original meeting circa 12 months ago. Estates are also working closely with the communities team, who have continued to provide support to the community centre through the Household Support Fund to ensure residents can access food and essentials, and this is extended to March 2025. We are aware that whilst the centre continues to support residents, the use of these services is lower than at other hubs across the city. Should any decision be made to dispose of this centre through a leasehold or a freehold arrangement, these services would then be relocated to another provider in the area where possible.
Thank you. And in 1 minute, Mr. Sanford, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you. I'm partially reassured by what you said. I'd just like to say that, over 12 months ago when I was a councillor, this Paston Farm was on a secret hit list that the council wouldn't allow councillors to talk about in public. So it's really good that you are now having a public discussion about this. When Councillor Howard was the Cabinet member, I actually took him for a really enjoyable breakfast at Paston Farm, which I think he enjoyed also. So could I issue an invitation to you, perhaps in conjunction with the actual three councillors, to actually go to Paston Farm and actually engage with the people there and try and help us all to ensure that these vital services can continue.
Councillor Jamil, would you like to respond in 2 minutes, please?
I think most of my group are volunteering to go if I don't go.
I'm closest.
But I think the important thing here is that dialogue between the management committee, trustees and council is reopened. I'm willing to facilitate, I'm willing to sit down with them, with our communities team, to see how we can move forward. But certainly, I accept your invitation for the breakfast. But I think the important thing here is to make sure that the centre has a future, and if the group who run it at the moment wish to do so, we can sit down and talk about it.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation in item 6. So we'll move swiftly to agenda item 7, which is petitions from members of the public. Are there any petitions other than the Woodston Library petition that we are debating in the next agenda item? No, thank you. So in that respect, we shall move to the next item, and we have one petition before us this evening, which is regarding Woodston Library. In terms of the Council's petition scheme, 45 minutes in total is permitted to consider the petition at this meeting, and at the end of this period, Council will move immediately to the remaining votes without debate. Before I ask the petitioners to present their petition, I would like to advise members of a point of clarity in section 2.1 of the report. The total number of eligible signatures totals 764, not 824, due to duplicate signatures being received. Ms. Jenny Story and Mr. Andy Coles will be presenting the petition this evening. They will have up to 5 minutes between them, shared time, to present their petition to the meeting to begin the debate. Jenny Story and Andy Coles are to address the council. Which of you is to go first? Either? So Jenny Story. Thank you. Ian will have the microphone for you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's been a long and hard journey to get here. almost a year. We've had to climb over too many unnecessary and unjust hurdles along the way, including the rejection of this very petition twice on false grounds, even though it met the council's own criteria. Finally, we are here representing the community of Woodston, Fletton, Nene Valley and Hempstead. You have no choice but to listen to our collective voices tonight, but we hope and pray you will also hear us. We directly ask the council to take Woodston Library off the assets disposal list, increase the opening hours and work with the Friends of Woodston Library and our community so we can embrace and enhance and rejuvenate this much-loved library, which the council has neglected, under-promoted and made inaccessible for far too long. The review is flawed. We've experienced 7 months of active non-engagement from the council. Continued refusal to provide basic information has meant our only redress has been to submit complaints and FOIs. And today it seems you are pumping out false statements to the media. None of this meets the council's pledge to be transparent, collaborative, inclusive, respectful and innovative. You have even confirmed you offered our library to other organisations before the review had completed and ahead of the legal 3-month consultation process, which would have tainted the outcome of any consultation. You have stated you can't afford to keep the library open. We say you can't afford to close it. Can we agree a new chapter together? The Friends Group can support our council-run library and our community with time, enthusiasm, passion, and gain external funding to ensure our library prospers. We can bring culture and creative events to Woodston Library to enrich local lives, so important in a deprived area such as ours. We can give support to increase reading and literacy, critical in a city with one of the lowest literacy rates in the UK. We can give support to create healthier and happier lives. We have much social isolation in our community. The library was bequeathed to local people by a former alderman and
You're
mayor.
halfway through your time, by the way. Halfway.
Sorry?
You're halfway through your time.
The library was bequeathed to local people by a former alderman and mayor of this city in 1950. You were charged with the privilege of being its custodians. Please protect his legacy. Surely his principles, if not his politics, are worthy of your support. It could be your legacy up for debate one day. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes, former Councillor Coles. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Dear members, I was sincerely hoping that this evening would be a pleasure to speak in familiar surroundings in support of our city and of saving our community library in Woodston. I was looking forward to thanking the leader, our former and current MPs for Woodston and our current ward councillors for enabling the Friends to set up a project to turn the library around. I was looking forward to our 13 volunteers being able to support the employed staff in increasing the hours the library is open and bringing many activities to the area. I was also pleased to say that all of this would be largely self-funded, i.e. cost neutral to the council. I was hoping to say all that tonight, but unfortunately I can't. At our last meeting with officers, we thought we had agreement to most of our proposals and had been promised a couple of months for the library service to approve and train up our volunteers, and over the next year for us to run a whole range of events to prove that the library should be retained by the council. We had a brief discussion about a lease, but let's be clear, we didn't agree to it at that point. We now find out from the press today that we have agreed to sign a lease on the property. Well, that's news to us. Councillors, just think how you might feel if you were presented with a suggested lease that you hadn't asked for, which makes you liable for all costs for the building, potentially even staff costs. Let's be clear, our petition is supported by local residents who want us to be successful in saving the library. We want to work with the council, but this is to come from a position of respect and genuine willingness to work together to achieve this. We offered a clean slate, and we now would like to see that come forward. Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Ooh, thank you very much. 20 seconds early. Now then, Councillor Jamil, as the Cabinet member, you now have the opportunity to propose a motion as to what action should be taken as a result of this petition tonight, and you'll have 5 minutes in total to respond at this point.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Thank you to Andy and Jenny as the representatives of the Friends of Woodston Library and your efforts with all your other colleagues to try and keep the library going, and the fact that you've raised this petition. Unfortunately, the council currently faces the most challenging financial pressure ever. We simply cannot afford to continue to support all the current community facilities in Peterborough from the council taxpayers' money. Therefore, a comprehensive review of community assets was undertaken this year, and Woodston Library was earmarked for closure, as you know. And the situation that we find ourselves, Mr. Coles, you are acutely well aware. It's the same. It's even worse than what it was when you were here last year. So that's where we're starting from. However, I'm disheartened to hear some of your comments. However, as someone who's been in post 3 months, I'm willing to work with you and the Friends, and I'm sure that your ward councillors are as well. So we've listened, we believe, to the Friends of Woodston Library and the passion that's clearly in place here. We've therefore offered to pause the proposed closure, and we've offered yourselves the opportunity to run the library for a period of 6 to 12 months without council subsidy. This means that the Friends will have the chance to generate sufficient funding from external grants, volunteers, income generation and fundraising, and our communities team, I can assure you, will work with yourselves to ensure that that happens. This could include extended opening hours, working with other organisations who can contribute towards running costs. We feel that a community group such as yourself may be better placed to run the facility than the council, having more time and resources to find ways of generating funding, working with local partners and stakeholders. We originally, I believe, offered a 6-month trial period, but it's now been extended to 12 months. I sincerely hope this will work. As together we will work and the library will remain open. However, if after this period we find that it's financially not viable, we will have no option but to close it at the end of the trial period. Therefore, I propose that this council notes the petition and the commitment that I'm giving you that we will work with you and the reasons outlined, and asks that this council take no further action at this time.
Do you have a seconder for that, Councillor Jamil? Councillor Thorburn.
Yes, I'd like to second that motion. Thanks.
You're reserving your right to speak, I guess? Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so we have a motion or a proposal that's been proposed and seconded. Does any member wish to speak on this item in terms of normal rules of debate apply? Councillor, Daisy Creedon. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. A few months ago, the effort to save Woodston Library became a strong movement in our ward, bringing the community together like never before. After many discussions and countless phone calls between Jenny and me, we have worked as an administration driven by the passion and determination of Woodston Library supporters to pause the library's closure, as Councillor Jamil just announced. Since that decision, the Friends of Woodston Library have worked tirelessly to make the library a vibrant hub of activity. Despite some challenges, they have utilised the space to its fullest potential. Groups like Knit and Natter, which I had the pleasure of visiting on Saturday, are flourishing. It's clear that the library isn't just a building, it's the heart of our community. However, as a council, we must face the financial realities we are dealing with. For Woodston Library to remain open in the long term, it will need to become cost neutral and self-sufficient. We understand this will be no small task. That said, I am fully committed to supporting efforts to achieve this goal and exploring solutions to secure the library's future. Let's keep the momentum going and ensure Woodston Library continues to thrive as a vital part of our ward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on? Councillor Allen, Steve Allen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm only just jumping in here because I was the Cabinet member who was responsible for looking at assets when we initiated the asset review along with Councillor Howard. The concept of that review was to better purpose places and find ways to allow them to continue to be open for the community. And I do applaud the fact that that is now being looked at. I think it's important that the library is kept open, maybe by being slightly more commercial, looking at things like a library of things, which is operating elsewhere in the country. And I think that the cost containment and community support for the venue hopefully will allow it to stay open. So I urge the administration to find every way to keep this library open. As a community, as a council that closes libraries is an indictment on the world we live in. So let's keep it open if we can in any way, form.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Anybody else? Councillor Christian Hogg, Councillor Howard, and nobody else? Councillor Ali, yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Our libraries, in fact, all of our community assets are a very precious thing. And if we lose them, they will be lost forever. Buildings of this ilk have been gifted or paid for by developers and placed in the custody of the council, and I think it's wrong that we should be discarding these buildings before they've been given a true airing, an opportunity to flourish once again. I absolutely understand the financial issues that we have as a council, and ultimately some really difficult decisions have been made and will continue to be made going into the future. But we can't just look at everything in financial terms. We have to look at what we are doing to our communities. And this is the Woodston Library, and it may be that councils from other areas of the city will think, well, that's not my part of the city. But it's that old adage, isn't it, that once this is gone, where are they coming next? Are they coming to your community building? Are they coming to your local library to shut it down? And don't be suckered into thinking that libraries just about books. They're about the heart community. They're about warm spaces for people. They're about meeting up. They're about communities coming together. A whole plethora. Get on with the job of making these buildings wash their own face. But ultimately, we as a council still have that responsibility to look after these groups, to pick them up when they fall along the way, and eventually, hopefully, with a bit of time, then they can actually move forward together. Sorry, I've gone on one, but this is something that I'm quite passionate about. So I absolutely agree that this is the way forward, and certainly the Liberal Democrats will be holding the administration's toes to the fire to make sure that they come up with the goods.
Oh, right. Councillor Howard, John Howard, please.
Thank you. For you, Deputy Mayor. I'll stay seated because it makes me look slimmer. But yeah, good memories of the tour of the library with Councillor Allen a few years ago, and very fond of memory success for the library. Thank you.
Let's have more like that. 1 minute. Great. Councillor Ali, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So I wanted to potentially propose an amendment to the motion, if I could. But before, I don't know if that's protocol. Yeah, you check. If those of you who haven't been to this library, it's actually not the library as you'd imagine a library to be. It's not a massive building. It's actually, the footprint of it is probably like a 3-bedroom house. It's on a street which is lined by terraced houses. It's completely out of place, and that's its charm. It's been there for, like the lady said, for many, many years. It's the heart of the community, and it's something that we're very, very proud of in Woodston. And then talking about handing it over on a 12-month trial period, you have to remember, this is not really blowing a hole in our budget. I think collectively, the list of assets on the list that we're looking at potentially selling to realise capital revenues, this is a very, very small portion. If you think about the value of the property is maybe less than £200,000. The shortfall that it's generating is around £20,000 a year. You'd have to find that maybe 300 times over to even start making a hole in the deficit, let alone the annual budgets. So closing this down will not do anything to our financial situation. It will change it by £20,000. And when you've got a shortfall of 10 million, £20,000, it's literally pocket change. And you have to applaud the residents of Woodston for coming together, to making a plan, to engaging with the City Council, for doing all the right things, for ticking all the boxes. This is exactly what you'd expect from a community organisation. They've got a solution. I'm going to go to you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and see if I can make an alternative motion or an adjustment to the motion.
Do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Short answer.
No.
Can I make a separate motion?
No. I can give you a longer answer, but the answer is no on both things.
Okay.
Okay? There was a deadline earlier today, which you could have done, but now you can't because
I didn't know what the motion was going to be.
Well, there we go. So perhaps that's one for
I
democratic services or constitution ethics to take up.
If I were allowed to make, if I were allowed to make an amendment to the motion, it wasn't radical. I was going to make the point that the City Council has been custodian of this asset for 70 years, and it's running into a position where it feels it can't run any longer. It's unfair for the council to then give it on to a group of volunteers on a 12-month trial basis without at least committing to paying for the first 12 months.
I'm loving hearing your voice. It's great, and your opinion. I am told the answer is no, and that's the advice I'm giving.
Yeah, I'm just making a point.
Just so you know. But Councillor Hogg wants to come in on the same point. Do you? What is your point of?
Is he not able to do a motion without notice?
Not
to
on
scrutiny?
petitions, apparently.
Not for petitions.
Not for petitions. Which is why I said, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Okay. That's well. I would have
He's
always
turned
asked
into
for
the long
answer.
answer by the long way round. So no and no. So I think they're just double checking they're right, and it seems they're right. So it might apply on normal business, but we're going to carry on the debate. Sorry, we're just digressing, but I just want everybody to be clear that that's the advice. Sorry. Now I've got Councillor Julie Stevenson next, I believe.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I have a degree in librarianship, and so I immediately was sitting here thinking, well, what's the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals, of which I used to be a chartered member, have to say about this? And there was an article in the Bookseller a few weeks ago, and it says the Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals is writing to every councillor and council chief executive across England and Wales, where budget pressures on local authorities could put their public libraries at risk of closure or a reduction in the service provision. The letter offers a range of guidance about how to evolve public library services to keep delivering for local people, the evidence of their long-term return on investment, both financially and by contributing to a variety of agendas for the social good. It's also a reminder that decisions should follow due process and meet statutory responsibilities to local citizens. And I just wondered, have we, the council, received that letter as yet from CILIP? And could we see it perhaps, and could the Friends of the Woodston Library see it, because it sounds like it might contain some useful advice?
Thank you. Anybody else? That was the end of my list. Can't see anybody else in the room. Okay, in which case then, I shall go back to Ms Jenny Story and Mr Andy Coles as the lead petitioners. You both have the right of reply and can respond to any matters raised, and you can speak for a maximum of 3 minutes, again shared between you. Are you both going to speak, or have you decided? Sorry? Okay, well, if you want a reminder, halfway I'll remind you, if you don't mind the interruption. So 3 minutes, we'll start when you start speaking.
I think it's quite disappointing that so many people in our community have come together and sort of put me here today. And mainly what you're talking about is dumping the library on residents, when we've tried to work with you for nearly a year. A lease has never been on the agenda. It's something that was mooted. It was not what we're here for. It's not what your constituents, the people who've elected you are asking for. All we've been wanting to do is to talk with the council for nearly a year We've had misinformation, misengagement, and you just want to give us a library without actually looking what that would be. How, if a survey, you carried out a building survey and it needed £50,000 spent on it, where are you going to get that money for? Because we certainly wouldn't even consider a lease without it being 100% working order. And sorry to correct you with your eloquent speech, but it's actually been valued at 100,000 to 120,000, just so you know. So we really are talking small money. But, I mean, Andy can talk to you about thousands of pounds worth of funding he's hoping to secure it, imminently. But it's on the terms of a council-led library, of which we will support.
You are halfway
We are not
now.
a library.
You're
We are not
halfway.
a library. We are people. We want to support our library. We want to support librarians. Let's not devalue the role of a librarian. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, for the chance to reply. And thank you very much to those councillors who have supported us in terms of bringing this library to fruition. I completely understand where Councillor Jamil is coming from, that the potential option is for a lease. But we have to be clear about that. There are some very big questions we have to have answered. Why would we lease a library when it's a statutory service that's provided for by the council? How much money are we going to have to find to make sure we can run it? We have £200 in the bank account at the moment. That's not really enough even to pay the electricity bill. We've been sprung this idea of a solution without adequate discussion. I have to say, very grateful to the communities team who listened the first time they listened. They worked with us. They understood the issues that we had and were prepared to work with us. Unfortunately, their position has been somewhat undermined with this idea that we can only operate under a lease. What we are asking is that we give the opportunity to the people who are involved in the Friends group to form and to do what they can do to save the library, but to suddenly say you have to also find all this money that we don't currently have and to turn it into some sort of fight for a lease is a surprise to us. We weren't ready for that. The community weren't aware of that. We have to go back to our members to discuss it. So while I understand the solution and where it's coming from, that's not really where we were starting from, and that's not what we understood from our meeting with the communities group. But thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Coles and Ms. Story. So, Councillor Thornborn, although I did say you had a right to reply, apparently you don't, but I'm going to allow you to if you want to say anything, but you don't have to. You're okay. Fine. In which case, then, I'll go back to Councillor Jamil as the Cabinet member making the proposal. And again, you have up to 3 minutes, but I'm sure you won't need it.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You're right, I won't need it. And I feel for the Friends of Woodston Library, just like I feel for the library in just like I feel for the community centre of Paston. The problem with some of the solutions is that everyone has a right to keep their community centre or library open, but unfortunately, the financial situation this council finds itself in does not allow that. And I agree, Councillor Ali, 20 grand isn't really going to make a big hole in, but when you start doing it right across the board, it all adds up and it will make a difference to our finances. I go back to our officers, we'll keep working with you, and I can assure you on that. So tomorrow morning, I redouble the effort to make sure that I agree, we should keep this open and we should explore every single avenue to keep it going. But at this moment, I think that's the best solution that we can give you. And anything talks of a lease and so on, all, they have to follow a process because it's a library and that in itself, 3 to 6 months of a consultation period. But I will get communities come back and I think we need to sit down and work out how we can move forward. But at the moment, I think where we are, I think the best thing is to do, we've noted this and I give you my commitment to work with you.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Now, members, we don't find ourselves here very often, so for this element, some of this might be new. I can't recall one myself happening. But this is not a motion as such, it's a proposal by the Cabinet member, and there will be a vote on this proposal. Should there be no majority for this vote, in terms of Councillor Jamil's proposal, it will fall to me as the chair of the meeting to note the petition, and in effect it's the same thing. I think I'm right with that. And that's under the petition scheme of 8.13. So members, we will move to the vote which will be electronic. And again, it's yellow for abstain, green for yes, and red for no. When the lights are flashing, and Dan will now instigate whatever he needs to do, and the team. So just 1 second. Oh, Councillor Ali, you have a point of what?
I just want to know exactly what the motion is that we're voting for, because it wasn't quite clear.
Okay. Well, my understanding is from Councillor Jamil, and correct me if I'm wrong, it is to note the petition and take no further action. Was that correct? That was correct, Councillor Jamil?
Yeah, that's correct. No further
In
action
essence,
other than what
that's
I've
it.
said that we'll do.
Now, if there is no agreement to that in terms of a vote in council, it falls to the chair of the meeting, that is me, to note the petition. Bizarre, but that's what I'm being told. So we will go to the vote. I'll come back to what happens after whatever happens in the vote, because if the vote is for, what happens next is irrelevant. But I'll come back to that. Councillor Hogg, you have a point, and what point is it?
Just a question, just in terms of procedure. So if we were to vote against, essentially it falls away and no action is taken because of the petition.
It falls to me to make a formal decision and be noted. But we'll come back to that.
But essentially the council will do nothing further.
More or less.
Yeah.
I'll get the wording for you in a minute, okay? But we will now move to the vote on Councillor Jamil's proposal, which is to note the petition and take no further action. So when the lights are flashing, you know the routine, wait for them to flash and then cast your vote. We are still waiting for 6 people to vote. Do we know who they are? Oh, me. I should be abstaining. I forgot that they were flashing in front of me. I thought it was like Christmas decorations. Okay, so the results are 11 abstentions, 21 for, and 23 against. So Councillor Jamil's proposal has failed or fallen, whichever you want to call it. Just give me a second now. So apparently, under the petition scheme of 813, the proposal is not agreed. So I, as Mayor, shall move that it's noted and we take no further action. However, I noted also, so that's the formal decision, I also noted that the Cabinet member and the administration will continue to work and liaise with the group to find a solution, and I hope that dialogue continues, as obviously all members do, given the vote. So it's a very sensitive issue, which everybody here does understand, and that's it. We shall move on to the next item, folks. So 7B, which is petitions from members. Are there any petitions from members? No. Okay, so we shall move to agenda item 8A through to C, which is questions on notice. And tonight there have been 7 questions submitted by members this evening to the Cabinet members. All questions have been published on the Council website and have been circulated to members ahead of this meeting in the up-to-date pack, which I will note, we should get them earlier, by the way. I think all members might agree with that, so we get time to study the implications rather than getting them late in the day. Monday would be latest. So I guess we're happy to take all the questions as read this evening. I don't see any dissent on that. So question number 1 is for Councillor Julie Stevenson. Councillor Angus Ellis, would you like to respond to the question from said councillor in relation to adopted roads? And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you for your question, Councillor Stevenson. The City Council are keen to adopt all residential and industrial roads, but they need to meet the correct standard before we can do this. This ensures we are not picking up any legacy issues that could be costly to the Council, which the developer needs to sort out first. Unadopted roads are private property, and the Council does not have the legal power to take ownership or force a landowner to enter into an adoption agreement. The developer must enter into a Section 38 agreement with the local authority to facilitate adoption, which enables inspection during construction to ensure the roads are built to the Council's specification. Where this does not happen, it may cause delays or prevent the roads from being adopted. Ideally, potential buyers should be encouraged by their solicitors to hold a retention from the developer until their roads are adopted. In reference to the adoption issue preventing City Fibre, we would like to stress that this is not the case, and all that is required is the developer's consent for City Fibre to work on their roads.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson, do you have a supplementary question? 1 minute.
I do. Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ellis, for your fulsome response. I wonder if you would be amenable, Councillor Ellis, to a meeting with me and possibly a couple of residents of Alton Northgate estate, which has been built over, well, it's almost 10 years now, and nothing's moved any further forward. Would you be amenable to that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Stephen. Yes, I will be. Thank you, and I will arrange that with you.
Thank you. We'll move to question 2 this evening from Councillor Mark Ormston. And again, Angus Ellis. Councillor Ellis, would you like to respond to the question in relation to household recycling?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ormston, and a big thank you for letting me have sight of it early as well. Thank you very much. The Household Recycling Centre in Peterborough allows residents to dispose of their household waste without any restrictions on the amount. However, waste from home improvements has always been considered household waste in limited quantities. To reassure members, this is nothing new. Home improvement waste has always been restricted. We have simply clarified what these limits mean in reality. The capacity of a site is not normally a problem. I recognise that we recently experienced a temporary capacity issue. This was due to some operational problems that delayed waste compaction and transportation away from the facility. As such, there are currently no plans to increase capacity or commission new facilities.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. Many thanks to the Cabinet Member for his response. I think the communication has come as a bit of a surprise. I appreciate you might say that the rules were there in place previously, but there's nothing more frustrating than to residents to load up their cars, go to the recycling centre and then be turned away. That's something that members in this chamber have experienced this calendar year. So please can the Cabinet Member reassure residents and indeed members in this chamber that he will be keeping a close eye on the data, and if we need to start collecting data on how many people are being turned away from the centre and for what reason. And lastly, if the number of fly tipping incidents increases, please will he review and or reverse the recent changes or communications or lobby those behind the changes. Thank you.
Councillor Ellis.
Thank you for your supplementary question. Yes, we can keep an eye on things and see what happens. And in fact, I would like more member engagement on these things. Because I also see that we seem to be suffering from increased amounts of fly tipping generally, and we need to do more about it. And it certainly, I certainly do not think it is anything to do with the changes or perceived changes, because we're not actually doing anything differently at the Household Recycling Centre. Some of the things we're doing more about fly tipping, we recently secured a grant of 50,000 to help reduce fly tipping across Peterborough, resulting in an active campaign on social media, events in person, and the development of educational resources and additional mobile cameras for pilot areas in North and Central wards and rural wards. Our recycling education team work proactively across the city to help people understand what to do with the things they no longer want. This includes visits to schools, individual households, community events, etc. We also held a litter workshop on the 26th of November in collaboration with the Peterborough Litter Wombles, which included volunteers, Aragon, Co-op, Peterborough Environmental City Trust and more. During the workshop, we discussed how various organisations could collaborate and work better to maximise the resources we have to reduce litter, and what else could be done to reduce littering and the build-up of debris across Peterborough. Also, I can announce, in order to find out more what we can do about the problem of fly tipping, I've requested that a cross-party working group is set up to look at all aspects of the problem of fly tipping, and so it has been agreed to ask relevant Scrutiny Committee to establish a new task and finish group, building on work already undertaken in the past, to identify new mechanisms to tackle this blight on our city. And I hope Councillor Ormiston and others will take part in that. Thank you.
Thank you. So question 3 is from Councillor Christian Hogg to Councillor Alison Jones. Would you like to respond to the question in relation to Christmas lights 2025? Ho, ho, ho.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I will. Thank you for your question, Councillor Hogg. And yes, I can tell you that conversations are already being had about sponsorship for the 2025 Christmas lights and the Switch On event. But first of all, I'd like to thank all the sponsors that came forward to support this year's events and the decorations. And I'm sure you'll all agree that they look fantastic. And the Switch On event was a fantastic success with hundreds of us going there. And I certainly enjoy being part of that party atmosphere. But the plans for 2025, as I said, have commenced, and this year we are currently going to promote we're going to currently approach this year's sponsors and see if they'd like to be involved next year, and other businesses as well. Discussions have commenced with the bid, who again have demonstrated and said that they are very keen to get involved and sort of see what they can bring to the party. Other options are going to be, we're looking at concession contracts, and there are many other in place. I would be interested though that if you have any other thoughts about this, Councillor Hogg or any other members, then please let me know and we can also look into those. Just let's forget, as a reminder, Christmas 2024 though, as a city, didn't stop just at the lights. We have a website that's been created and it's on our website detailing different entertainments planned in the city centre. So why not check out that and then come along to support these activities. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
I know I needn't ask, but do you have a supplementary question by any chance?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Just some clarification on that answer. I hear that it has already started, but the language I felt said that we haven't actually approached the sponsors from this year yet. Or is that, has that conversation actually already started? And more importantly, have we actually secured, has anybody actually signed up for sponsorship?
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I am being reliably informed that we are making contact. Where we are with that yet, I would have to get exact information for you. And as far as anybody committing to anything yet, probably not is going to be the answer if you ask people. Definitely not, I think, because they're too busy looking for their Christmas Day lunch this year. But as I said, we will keep you updated with what's going on.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Councillor Skibstead has question number 4, again to Councillor Ellis. Would you like to respond to Councillor Skibstead in relation to recycling at school?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Skibstead, for your question. Recycling rates in Peterborough have remained steady for several years. Unfortunately, rates have decreased slightly since January 2023. This isn't typically because people are recycling less, but because large items that the council could once recycle, such as soft furnishings containing persistent organic pollutants, now need to be disposed of via the energy recovery facility following a legislative change. Our new recycling education team are leading outreach programs to engage with schools, community groups and residents. They knock on individual doors, visit schools, hold community events and offer tours of our energy recovery facility. For clarity, waste from schools isn't covered by our strategic duties, but we realise engaging with schools is crucial. I've asked Aragon to help schools by reaching out with a commercial offer. This will help schools meet new legislative requirements and, as intended by new legislation, standardise recycling practices across homes, workplaces and schools to improve recycling.
Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Skipstead?
Yes, I do, Deputy Mayor. The question was that the schools cannot afford to pay the cost of recycling, which is what I was told by a teacher at that school. So it seems that if they're not unable to afford it, there must be something the council can do to improve that situation, maybe support in some way, because if they can't afford it, then that's lots of schools and lots of recycling that we are missing out on. So what can the council do to improve that?
Thank you.
Ellis. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Skipstead. I've just been told by my colleague on my left, who is the Cabinet Member for Education, she's got a little bit more detail that she could give you in answer to your supplementary.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis, and thank you, Councillor Skipstead. In terms of schools' financial positions, the majority of them are academies and are therefore responsible for the financial dealings within their own academies. From a personal aspect, I have been part of the Council's Reduce, Reuse and Recycle programme, which is offered out to all schools. It is a bought-in service, and as I've said, it's up to schools as to how they spend their finances. All schools that I have been involved with are keen with recycling champions, light switch monitors, you name it. Schools are fully on board with ensuring that we are trying to keep our planet as safe and green as possible. But I will speak to the Director for Education and see what we can do, again, to signpost schools to the services and education services that we offer schools in terms of recycling.
Thank you very much. I think maybe you should stay behind after council and do lines. By the by. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to question 5 then. Councillor John Howard has a question to Councillor Katie Cole. Would you like to respond to the question in relation to corporate parenting and children's services?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Howard, for your question. The short answer is yes. But I think the answer depends on what we mean when we say political. Quite often, especially here in Peterborough, when we say something is political, it means something is contentious and needs to be argued about. But to me, politics is about making positive decisions to improve people's lives. It's about what our priorities are, and for this administration, protecting children's services and education services is one of our priorities. Children should thrive and not survive. Decisions about children's services should be guided by evidence-based practices, research and professional expertise. We are all the corporate parents for children here in Peterborough, and it should be our commitment to the children here that we transcend divides and enable sustained strategies which are focused on supporting our children achieve their best outcomes. This is what I aspire for my own children and what I want for the children in Peterborough.
Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Howard?
I do, thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cole, for the answer, and I do agree with the sentiment of your answer. I would like to draw your attention to the letter that was sent to the Government's Children's Minister on council-headed paper calling for more support for kinship carers in Peterborough, which, as the Chair of Corporate Parenting and across the political spectrum, I think you'd agree we all widely support. But I want my disappointment put on record that the letter was only signed by Labour MPs and a Labour cabinet, and a real missed opportunity where no chance was given for the letter to be signed by other councillors who give so much of their time voluntary to the Children's Improvement Board, or even to the entire Corporate Parenting Committee, which has been doing a lot of work the last few months to improve services. I feel like there's a really missed chance here on a letter that could have been cross-party and non-political in its approach to the Minister, and sadly was used as a political opportunity. And I really want to note my disappointment.
Would you like to respond?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Councillor Howard, for making those comments. However, I'm proud that the DFE are interested in Peterborough's desire to be included in the announced kinship funding trial in the recent budget update. As Cabinet Member for Children's Services and Education, I sought the signatories of my fellow Cabinet members. I also spoke to you about it and asked your opinion on this kinship care bid that I was going forward with. Kinship carers are vital to this city, as are foster carers. And I'm pleased that we have MPs in this city that want to work here with us and the council to get the best possible deal for Peterborough and our residents. When we work together, regardless of our political ideals, we achieve so much more, and that's so important for our city. The work that our MPs have been doing over in Westminster has meant that ministers are aware of Peterborough's interest in this kinship programme. I'm proud of that.
Thank you. Watch the space. Developing subjects. Again, we go back to Councillor John Howard again for question 6 to Dennis Jones. Would you like to respond to the question, Councillor Jones, from Councillor Howard in relation to Cabinet Policy Forum?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I will indeed, and thank you for your question, Councillor Howard. And thank you for the opportunity to perhaps inform those members of the public who are watching, and maybe members in the chamber who may not be familiar with CPF or the Cabinet Policy Forum. Effectively, CPF is a meeting at which Cabinet is appraised of reports that are presented to Cabinet, together with emerging issues that Cabinet needs to be aware of. This allows the Cabinet to offer advice and direction in terms of policy. The meeting is attended by Cabinet and senior officers that provide support and guidance to members. Since becoming the administration in May, my fellow Cabinet members have relished the opportunity to discuss items coming into Cabinet before they do so in the Policy Forum. It affords members to ask the kind of question that may be posed by both the press and the public. The CPF meetings continue to take place. They are very well attended by both officers and members, and I hope that you will rest assured that all decisions made at Cabinet are challenged, as we continue to be challenged in the Chamber itself as a healthy part of our democratic process. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
And thank you. Councillor Howard, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, I do, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones. It's very reassuring to hear. And you will know the Shadow Cabinet is equally doing a lot of heavy lifting with these papers. We push for the asset disposals to remain in the political arena and come back to the Cabinet or Cabinet member. And we also push for the political group leaders to have more oversight on the potential Hilton sale. So I hope you continue to support and also challenge the papers you're seeing in Cabinet Policy Forum for all our sakes, which of course equally is the duty of the Shadow Cabinet too. Perhaps going forward you'll give us less work to do, and thank you for the answer. It's much appreciated.
We're reaching the end of questions, folks. One more to go. And this time it's question 7. Oh, sorry, Dennis, you want to reply to that? Sorry.
Thank you.
Did you want to reply to...
Yeah, no, I agree, and obviously the more we work together, the better. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I thought I'd read your mind. That's why I was moving on. Okay, question 7 then, from Councillor Christian Hogg to Councillor Mohammed Jamil. Would you like to respond to the question from Councillor Hogg in relation to fencing at the Hilton Hotel?
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The hoardings at both the apartment blocks and the hotel are both construction sites and need to be suitably hoarded. As they come into operational use, those buildings, they will be reduced and removed as appropriate. The current plastic red and white banners need to remain in situ whilst the works are being carried out to the apartment block and hotel. Due to the hoardings for these controlled construction narrowing the pedestrian path, we need these barriers in place to protect the pedestrians and the main carriageway. I have further asked council, my staff, that the red and white barriers are actually quite filthy, and we've asked them to be cleaned as well. So they are in place because of the fact that both the Hilton Hotel and the block next door are construction site, and they're needed for health and safety reasons.
It's over to you, Councillor Hogg, for a supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It seems to me that the hoardings for the apartment block have actually been moved back from their original position, and that has afforded the fact that the footpath is no longer restricted. And the reason that the red and white barriers are in place is because of that restriction, to stop people from moving into the carriageway. But that then further restricts the footpath even further. So what I'm asking for, could we look, there's not been a huge amount of activity at the hotel site, could we look to see if we could match the hoardings at the apartment block by moving them back? Then we would then no longer need the red and white barriers, and people could use the footpath to its complete extent.
Councillor Jamil?
Yes, is the short answer. We can look at it as long as it doesn't pose any health and safety issues.
Great. I think we made good time on that section. Some interesting questions about the SPF, as Mr. Sanford would call it, the Secret Policy Forum. Thought I'd make him smile. It's where all those decisions are made in secret. That's not true. But I just thought it would amuse us for a minute. Okay. So, agenda item 8D, questions on notice. There was one question submitted by members to the Combined Authority representatives, and that question is from Councillor Christian Hogg, and it's for Councillor Angus Ellis to answer. Would you like to respond to this question in relation to a bus stop in Hampton?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I would like to respond, and thank you very much for Councillor Hogg for your question. Regarding the 5A routes in relation to Hampton School, this question was raised directly by yourself to me, and the answer I got back from Andrew Highfield, Assistant Director for Transport at the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority, which you already have, is as follows. CPCA officers have now further engaged with the operator, which is Stagecoach, who operates these commercial journeys, and they have provided the below summary of our analysis. And this is what Stagecoach say. To make this change would negatively impact the reliability of the service at peak times, potentially having a knock-on effect to post-peak journeys, thus negatively impacting a number of existing customers who are relying upon the service. In order to extend at peak times, we would need to add an additional bus, and we do not feel the passengers generated from two journeys would generate enough revenue to cover the cost of the additional peak resource. The fare cap also making that even more of a challenge. In the current system for the bus network, as this is a commercial bus service, unfortunately, the Combined Authority have limited ability to specify that Stagecoach should adopt this approach. Officers will continue to engage with Stagecoach to identify if their position changes soon.
Right, everybody happy with that? You want to come back? Go on then, thought you might.
I like to give value for money. Yes, you are absolutely right. I did get an answer to this question, but I'm not entirely sure that the answer was completely valid insofar as, yes, the number 5 service is a commercial service, but the 5A is funded by the CPCA. So what I'm actually asking for is an extension of the CPCA funding to make this bus a 5A for 2 extra routes. And that's my point. The point is that this is actually a decision for the CPCA, and it shouldn't be just offloaded back to Stagecoach and put the blame at their door. As far as I'm concerned, the CPCA could make this decision, and they are refusing to do so.
This will be fun. Councillor Ellis, have a go then.
Thank you. Right, the 5A route, whilst it is funded by the Combined Authority, it is commercially delivered by Stagecoach, and as such it is demand-led. I would suggest more work is undertaken by ward councillors to look into the demand for the changes you suggest. Perhaps a petition, and maybe a question at the Combined Authority Transport Committee, which I'm on. And as I think I've already mentioned to you in the past, I am happy to help with this, because I can see that it's it would be desirable for this to be extended. Also, this is a clear example of services being considered firstly on a commercial basis. The Combined Authority is looking at bus franchising, which will give them greater control on bus services. This is also our favoured model for the Combined Authority to pursue.
Right, thank you. I think we've reached the end of this section, which is 8D. Now we will move to agenda item number 9, which is in the Executive and Committee recommendations to Council. At this point, I'd like to welcome all the members of the taxi trade that are sitting in the other room watching the meeting, because I was going to say there was a lot of them outside and I didn't know where they'd all disappeared to. So they are actually in another room watching, so we bid welcome to them. And I feel sorry for all the members of the public who are probably wondering where their taxi is. Well, most of them are here, but let's see if we can get through this as quick as we can. Everybody should have a view on this. It seems fairly straightforward, not wanting to restrict debate. If we could keep the debate to the point, and whether you're for or against, because we're being asked to consider 3 recommendations from committees this evening. And the Licensing Committee, mandatory CCTV in Hackney carriage, is before us. As Chair of the Licensing Committee, Councillor Wiggin, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. This report presents to members proposed changes to the Council's policy to introduce the mandatory use of CCTV in Hackney and private hire vehicles operating in Peterborough. A report introducing these proposals was presented to the Licensing Committee on the 12th of September this year. The committee also heard from representatives from the Hackney and private hire federations as part of this process. Following robust questions and debate, the Licensing Committee resolved to recommend to full Council the adoption of the revised Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy as set out in Appendix 2 of this evening's report. Full Council is now asked to consider the proposed revised policy and the recommendation from the Licensing Committee and determine if the revised policy is adopted. The amendments to the policy can be found on page 93 of this evening's report and are highlighted in yellow. It is important to note that the revised policy proposes at paragraph 2.35 that if the new scheme is adopted, the mandating of CCTV will be no sooner than 12 months and no later than 18 months from the adoption of the new policy. Please note that there are typographical errors at paragraphs 2.34 and 2.35 of the policy, where a provisional date was erroneously entered. These errors will be corrected should the policy be adopted by full Council this evening. The committee also made additional recommendations to full Council regarding the adoption of a scheme to advertise and promote the new CCTV scheme, and to lobby central government to bring forward legislative changes to restrict cross-border taxi licensing. Council is recommended to 1. Adopt the revised Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy as set out at Appendix 2 of the report. 2. Endorse a scheme which included an opportunity for operators to be given the ability to advertise and promote that they are part of the Peterborough CCTV scheme once adopted, and that there is a method developed to prohibit outside taxi trade using the Peterborough scheme. And 3. Lobby central government to bring forward taxi licence legislation changes to restrict cross-border taxi licensing. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wiggin. Do you have a seconder for this?
Yes, Councillor Hiller.
Councillor Hiller, do you wish to speak? No? You agree?
I'm happy to
second the recommendation, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, we've got a lot of people waiting on this. It seems to be a very hot topic. On your marks, get set. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Qayyum, Councillor Jamil, Councillor Farouk Senior, Councillor Ali, yeah. Oh, hang on now, you're going too fast now. Yeah, got that one, got another one. Yeah, Councillor Howard, got that one. Rangzeb, Farid. You got her over there as well? Just get them all down, wait a minute.
Yep.
B, yeah. Farid. Yep. Was there anybody else I missed? I'll tell you who I've got. Councillor Qayyum, Jamil, Mohammed Farouk, Councillor Ali, Councillor Howard, Councillor Mahmood, Councillor B and Councillor Farid. That was everybody in the initial tranche. Councillor Rangzeb, sorry, we did miss you. Yeah. Was that it? It doesn't mean anybody else can't speak, but at least we know where we're going. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 speakers so far, and I'll take them in the order that we wrote them down. Councillor Qayyum first then, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to say that I'm one of those professionals who conduct the taxi medicals for the drivers in the city. I've conducted my own audit, and over this period of time, over the last year, since I've actually started to conduct these medicals, 335 taxi medicals have been completed by myself, of which 280 have gone to other authorities, the majority of them citing disagreement with the CCTV proposals, including reasons being the cost of living crisis, the fact that there's a level of inflexibility in the proposals. And I resonate with those thoughts as well, whilst I'd also like to be a voice of reason in this debate, and I understand an awful lot of work has gone into it. I'd also like to remind members over here that the initial committee was cross-party, and it wasn't simply a political decision. It was a decision that was made by a statutory committee. That's the first thing I'd like to say. The second thing I'd like to say is that I was at an operators event yesterday that was the launch of female drivers being recruited in the city, and I found that really heartwarming. It was a way of empowering women to earn a living, help their families. And for those of our guests that are here today, in terms of that voice of reason, I'd also like us all to think about their safety. So I agree with the third proposal, whereby we lobby government to make this standardised across the country, simply because of the fact that I feel that it's a disadvantage to our drivers here in the city that they'll go to other authorities and be able to operate here in the city anyway without CCTV mandated. It's much more better to have consistency across the board. And I know that they agree with that as well. And looking at the proposals, I believe that a level of flexibility needs to be offered if that is possible. So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll remind members you've got up to 3 minutes, but of course, just as Councillor Qayyum there, don't take it if you don't need it. Let's be succinct if we can. Councillor Jamil, you're next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Like my colleague, I have issues with recommendations 1 and 2, but I fully support recommendation 3. Now, a lot of the taxi drivers are residents in my ward, and I've listened to what they've said. Now, these are the people who are going to be affected. And they're going to be affected in a way where they're coming out of COVID, just about recovering, and then we're having to hit them with this. Now, they can say that it's being imposed on them. They've tried talking to our officers. Negotiations have happened, and then we're implementing or asking them to implement a scheme that they don't want to be a part of. Now, part of the problem here is that we're almost introducing a two-tier system where we are telling our drivers to do one thing, yet you can go and get your plate in Rutland or in Huntington or even as far away as Wolverhampton and come and work in the city, and the rules aren't as stringent as you. That's not really fair. That's why we're asking for recommendation 3 here, only where the government sets a level playing field for all taxi drivers, and therefore we can move on from that. So if everyone is fighting under the same rules, then I would say we can move forward, but certainly can't support level recommendation 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor, just to put on notice, at the end of the debate, I will be asking if we can vote on each recommendation separately, but I'll come to that at the end.
I was expecting that. I believe that might have to be a proposal from yourself, and it will also need a seconder, okay? But we'll come back to that. Oh, point of order and what?
Can I do a point of information? I'm not sure what we're talking about recommendation 3. If we're dealing with item 9A, it's only got recommendations 1 and 2. Unless
it's the same policy, but it came in an appendix. I'm right on that?
So on 9A, it's recommendation 2. Okay.
Basically, it's all the same. There are 3 recommendations in effect. The first recommendation is the paper itself, and then there are 2 other recommendations, but they were just somehow in different papers. But I'll make it all clear. Okay, so we'll know exactly what we're voting on. Councillor Mohammed Farouk next then, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. After long and hard thought, I cannot find substantial reason to vote for recommendation 1 and 2, although I can find many reasons to vote against the policy for a number of reasons. Those reasons are: it will have additional costs to our council to run it, costs which our council can ill afford. We are already struggling to deliver other statutory services. This will also introduce additional obstacles such as impact on jobs and growth. This will prevent entrepreneurial opportunities, as often people who start self-employment driving taxis go on to bigger businesses, creating valuable growth for our city. For me, there's simply not enough data on crime to warrant this, and of course the constabulary must also come to the table on this. Above all, Mr. Deputy Mayor, this policy will mean that many drivers will register, as my colleagues have mentioned, in neighbouring authorities, depriving our council badly needed licensing fees, and secondly, MOT testing at Peterborough Limited. In the process, introducing substandard vehicles and compromising the safety of our residents. So for that reason, I will not be voting for recommendation 1 and 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Imtiaz Ali, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So I've been following this policy, and I've spoken to a number of people, and I probably should have declared an interest. Although I'm not a taxi driver, I'm from the community that has a very high number of taxi drivers. My brother's a taxi driver, my friends are taxi drivers, my uncles have been taxi drivers. We used to get free lifts to and from the cinema if we found an Asian taxi driver. This is very, very much a profession that is practiced very much by my community, and I know many, many drivers. I've had many conversations. The key items probably have been discussed and are worth reiterating. If we implement this scheme in Peterborough, drivers will simply go elsewhere and get registered elsewhere. That will lead to a massive hit to the revenues on the City Council. This City Council is already struggling with a budget black hole, and we're further exacerbating that by forcing drivers away from us. One of the massive pluses in this city is actually our taxi trade. We've got 3,000 odd drivers here in Peterborough, and you can get from Bretton into town for £5.50. You can get from town into Autumn for about £6.50. It's one of the cheapest trades across any part of this country. You go anywhere else and you jump into a taxi and you'd be lucky to get change from a tenner. So they do a massive, massive service. In terms of crime stats, we're talking about 4 to 5 million taxi rides per year organised by the top 3 operators. There's 113 operators here in Peterborough. The top 3 have recorded close to 4 million taxi rides, and of those, there's only been 60 to 70 complaints that have gone to the police, and some of those have been from the taxi drivers themselves as victims of crime. So if you're using any excuse that you're using to implement this doesn't make any sense. We're attacking our taxi drivers. We're already charging them a licensing fee, which is over and above what it costs to run the licensing department here in the City Council. We've got a surplus from the money that they've paid us that we're using to plug gaps in our budget elsewhere, and we're using the licensing team to actually punish the drivers that we should be serving. So I'm absolutely going to be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Howard, please.
Thank you. For you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. there's things I like with the policy. Obviously, the public safety aspect, I think, is the part of the policy I like. But what I dislike is the fact that we're not competing on a level playing field. I think it's a national government issue to make this mandatory across the country, should they wish to, would be the way to bring this forwards. I don't think councils individually should be weighted down with this decision. The other thing I don't like about it is the fact that we've got section 10.1, which says financial implications. With the situation our council's in, how on earth has this paper got to this chamber tonight, still having financial implications? We've just heard tonight about our friends at Woodston Library. Things are tight. There is implications in this paper that this council can ill afford, and for that reason, I'm against the paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Azim Mahmood, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I echo most of what's been said. I was part of the committee that recommended this recommendation to full council. A lot of my residents in North Ward, are taxi drivers, and I've been inundated with a lot of emails from them about this. And I, go back to just saying that we need to level the playing field in that sense. And I will be voting against the recommendation 1 and 2. However, I will be voting for recommendation 3. We need to have complete reform of the licensing across the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I have Councillor Noreen Bai.
Thank you, Chair. As a councillor for North Ward, I recognise the essential role that the taxis and private hire vehicles play in our community, providing vital transportation for residents, including children attending schools. While safety and accountability are paramount, I have significant concerns regarding the proposal to mandate CCTV in these vehicles. There could be financial burdens on drivers, which will result in higher fares, impact on child transport services, high operational costs for Peterborough City Council, implementing and enforcing a mandatory CCTV policy. There are many privacy concerns, limited evidence of effectiveness, and basically, safety is a shared goal, but mandatory CCTV is not the most effective or equitable way to achieve it. Let us work together to find balanced solutions that enhance safety without imposing undue burdens on infringing on privacy. I urge my colleagues to consider the broader implications of this proposal and to support measures that are fair, practical and respectful of all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fareed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with many of the things the other councillors have said, but the point I want to make is we are running a risk of losing some of our drivers to neighbouring councils, which will mean that they can still work here, but we won't have control of any of these drivers. Also, we don't have enough data to suggest that taxi crime is quite high in our city. So I, like most of the others, I am going to be voting against point 1 and 2. Thank you.
Councillor Aurangzeb.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I can understand the reasoning and why this mandatory enforcement is coming into being, but the fact of the matter is this going to achieve something? Because considering the current law as it is, as some of the councillors have already mentioned, that if you're licensed from South Kesteven District Council, or if you're licensed from the South Holland District Council, or Wolverhampton, you can get a license for £95. We are charging £195 to license a vehicle. And we already have checks and balances there to check whether the person, individual, or the vehicle is fit to be granted the license. And considering this, we've not been able to control the people who have been licensed from the outside bodies. What will happen is that by enforcing this, These drivers are going to go out of the city to the South Kesteven District Council or Wolverhampton, and they'll be driving our streets, and we will be losing the control who drives on our streets. That is paramount.
As Park Ward councillor and a regular user of taxis in Peterborough, I would first of all like to commend the great service we have in Peterborough, possibly one of the most affordable. And if the first 2 points were brought in, if CCTV was brought in, it would put a huge financial strain on many taxi drivers, many of whom struggle to keep their businesses going. If this was passed on, they would have to then pass on the cost also, so the fares would have to go up. And also we would see quite a number of taxi operators licensing in other authorities but still being able to work here. So it really wouldn't work. So like Councillor John Fox, the only thing I can possibly vote for is point 3, to lobby the government. This needs to be a national scheme, not a local one, because it just doesn't work locally. It has to be a national scheme.
Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm going to swim against the stream on this one. So from my point of view, you know, nobody likes change. I remember the day when the SIA was brought in for licensing for door staff. It was ridiculed then by the industry, said it wasn't needed, etc., but I think it has gone from strength to strength. As far as this is concerned, you know, we're talking about you know, taxi drivers feeling the financial strain. From what I understand, the systems cost about £600 to fit. So even if you pay that in a year, that's £10 a month. But the system's not going to just last a year; it's going to last at least 5 years, I would guess. So we're talking about. Sorry, it was £50 a month, £10 a month, if over 5 years. So this isn't a king's ransom that we're looking for taxi drivers to put into their vehicles, and it's as much for their protection as it is for the members of the public. I have to say, when I first heard about this policy, I was against it. But then we had our Liberal Democrat conference down in Brighton, and we took a number of taxi cabs. Now, down in Brighton, that system has been in place for about 8 years, 7 to 8 years, something like that. And I didn't find a single taxi driver that had a bad word to say about it. They all said that it was a fantastic system. It made them feel safer in their cabs, and more importantly, their customers felt safer in the cabs. So, you know, and as for this, well, you know, if we do this, they will all, you know, they will all go off to other. Sorry, they will go off to other authorities. I'm not sure that we should be dictating policy with a gun to our head by the taxi trade. As far as I'm concerned, this is the right thing to do.
Ooh, right, okay. I've got Irfan Khan next, and nobody else after that at the moment. I'd like to wrap this up if we can.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just would like to echo what all the other fellow councillors have said, because I don't agree with what's been recommended. There's a lack of data supporting, obviously, what crimes have been committed by the drivers or anything like that. As MTR said, there's more, you know, that's happened to the drivers. So I definitely won't be supporting that. I'll going to be against that.
Right, in the absence of other speakers, Councillor Hiller, would you like to speak now?
Yes, I would. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I have empathy with Councillor Hogg's address to the council, and I have to say, local funding issues aside, it seems the Department of Transport, the DfT, published statutory guidance in July 2020, some 4 years ago, which provides a strong focus to protect all passengers and users of taxis and private hire services. The guidance, which this council has a statutory obligation to have regard to, clearly demonstrates that authorities are expected, I repeat members, expected to introduce mandatory CCTV in taxis unless there is a compelling local reason not to. An expensive legal challenge by one local authority has already been thrown out by the High Court. Let's be aware of that, please. Members, there's no compelling reason not to install a recording camera system in these vehicles used by members of the public in and around our city. The safety of paying passengers and the obvious improved safety of drivers is paramount. Please accept the revised policy as detailed in the report, as was accepted by your cross-party licensing committee. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you, members.
Thank you. Councillor Wiggin, as the mover of this proposal, would you like to sum up?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like to thank all members who have contributed to the debate and shared their views on this issue. And I'd like to thank all members of the Hackney and Private Hire Federations for engaging in the process and attending both tonight and to the Licensing Committee meeting in September. As Councillor Qayyum and Councillor Hiller have pointed out, the decision to move this motion at Licensing Committee was done by a vote of the cross-party committee per our terms of reference. I think it's clear that the majority of members in the Chamber support point 3, which was the recommendation I put forward at the Licensing Committee to ensure the government looks at reviewing the rules in terms of how taxi drivers licence. I think there's clear concern about the way this is done and the impacts this is having and could have should this motion be passed. So I would like to see, should the other proposals be thrown out, that this is put to a vote separately so that this bit does pass. There is one point from the debate that I would like to challenge. That's from Councillor Imtiaz Ali about the revenue impact on the council. So the council has the delegated power to set fees in relation to Hackney carriage and private hire vehicle licensing functions, but they cannot be used to raise revenue or to make a profit for the council. So the fees from taxi licensing does not subsidise the rest of the council. It cannot do so by law. And consequently, if we were to lose trade through the licensing service, the only impact that would have would be on the capacity of the licensing service, and if there's less demand, then we'd need less supply of people. Bear in mind as well that we do also support in this council the licensing authority for Rutland, so we provide that service for them. Indeed, there's a taxi that parks outside where I live, which is registered in Rutland.
Councillor Wiggin, just bear with. Councillor Ali, you have a point of order, and what is
just
it?
Just a right to apply to that. I attended an FSWG meeting 4 weeks ago.
You can't reply. It's
A
only
point
going to
of
be a point
correction then?
Well, a point of clarification or a
point of information? Point of accuracy?
Point of accuracy will be allowed.
Okay. I attended an FSWG meeting about 6 weeks ago where Director of Place and Economy, Adrian Chapman, said to close budget deficits, we are going to use our surpluses in the licensing scheme, both selective licensing and taxi licensing. I specifically asked that question at FSWG and said, do we have surpluses in those budgets?
I can't, whilst this may be, you think it's relevant, I'm not entirely sure how it's relevant to what Councillor Wiggin is summing up on.
He's giving me a point of correction. I think he's just corrected something I said.
Well, may I respectfully suggest, and Mr. Chapman is in the room, I was just about to say they're telling me what I was about to tell you. It's amazing. It's like psychic. With all due respect, I suggest you take that offline and back to FSWG or direct with Mr. Chapman, because it's not relevant to Councillor Wiggins summing up. Okay? Thanks. Sorry, Councillor Wiggins, carry on.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The final point I wanted to make was made very well by Councillor Hiller, is that the government's statutory guidance does say that we are expected to do this unless there is a compelling local reason. We were made aware at committee there was only one council that has found a compelling local reason to do this, and that was because the council involved did not undertake any home-to-school transport in their taxi service. As we're aware that our taxi companies do provide these services. I've not heard any other compelling local reason provided. I understand the strength of feeling in many regards around this, and obviously it's up to members to make your own minds up, but I do draw you to the statutory
That is
guidance.
time, I believe.
In that case, can we move to the vote, Mr Deputy Mayor?
Okay, I shall clarify a couple of points and then I'll come to Councillor Jamil in just a second. So the recommendations, there are actually 3, but the 2 that you have listed on page 59 would actually be 2 and 3. And number 1 would be the recommendation, which is actually the report of the committee, which is in Appendix 2. Does that make sense? Okay. So the recommendations on page 59 should actually be titled 2 and 3. And recommendation 1, and I'm going to read them out to you, is taken from the report in Appendix 2, which has been circulated as a link. So they would be 1, the revised Hackney carriage and private hire licensing policy are set out at Appendix 2 of the report. So you would be approving or not approving. 2, endorse a scheme which includes an opportunity for operators to be given the ability to advertise and promote that they were part of the Peterborough CCTV scheme once adopted, and that there was a method developed to prohibit outside taxi trade using the Peterborough scheme. And recommendation 3, lobby central government to bring forward taxi licence legislation changes to restrict cross-border taxi licensing. So I hope that's all crystal clear. Now, Councillor Jamil, I understand you want to move something.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move that we vote on each of the recommendation individually.
And do you have a seconder for that? Oh, crikey. Hang on, put your hands up again. Can't we have somebody from the front? Oh, look, Councillor Bond, there you go. Are you happy with that, Councillor Jamil? Cross-party working. Councillor Bond will second that. So, I think we vote on that, or is that agreed? We're voting on whether we do it separately, yes? Do I see no dissent? So therefore that's agreed. Everybody happy? Right. We're going to do this 3 times then. So let's be as quick as we...
Sorry, Deputy Mayor. Could I ask for a recorded vote on each and individual item, please?
Blimey, you will need how many?
We need 14.
14.
We've got enough.
We've got enough, I'm told. Okay.
I'm sorry, Dan, but you're going to have to...
So Dan, shall we vote on which order we want to take them in? Oh, point of order. Councillor Wiggin. Which
Just
order
a point of clarification. If recommendation 1 fails, would we then recommend 2 would fall?
Well, what?
Yeah.
If recommendation 1 falls, 2 would automatically fall because it relates to 1.
Okay. So just to clarify, we did discuss this earlier. There was a plan. See, Nick, this is when you needed. If recommendation 1 falls, it is pointless voting on number 2.
Yes.
But we will take 3 still, because that's a clear position. Everybody happy with that? All clear. So, Ryland, go ahead.
Sorry, just to clarify, does recommendation 1 not talk about then the recommendations that are in Appendix 2, which includes 2 and 3? So if 1 fails, we don't go to the appendix, and the appendix is what has recommendations 2 and 3 in it. So how can we do either of them?
I was told that's what we're doing.
Yeah, we're going to 3.
We're going to go to 3.
Go with it.
Yeah.
If we want to sit here all night and talk about it, I tell you what. Yes, go on then.
May I clarify for members that weren't at the licensing committee that the main recommendation of the licensing committee was what is now recommendation 1, and that recommendations 2 and 3 were made by the licensing committee in addition to recommendation 1, and that's why they sit separately.
Lovely. It's a shame it just didn't end up on the same paper, which then I wouldn't have had to explain it all. Right. So, should we have a vote on which order we do them in? No. And Dan, we'll go for item recommendation 1. Let's go for that, folks. You know the drill. Abstain is the middle, yellow. Against is red, and green is 4. Sorry, 4. Green is... Sorry? Oh, it's recorded. Oh, yes, of course it is. Sorry. We're standing up. Yeah. So sorry, Dan. Oh, well, stand up if you want to, or put your hand up, or... Oh, yeah, sorry. It's been a long night so far. Call your name out, yes. Yeah. Right. Pass.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll read out each member in alphabetical
Please
order
do.
if you can indicate whether they are for, against, or abstain. Councillor Ahmed.
Against.
Imtiaz Ali.
Against.
Zamir Ali.
Oh, he's not here.
Oh, he's not here. Councillor Allen.
Abstain.
For. Skipstead.
Against.
Stevenson.
Against.
Strangward.
Against.
Thorborn.
Against.
Walsh.
Abstain.
Warren.
Abstain.
And Wiggin.
4.
Thanks, folks. They'll just top those numbers up and we'll give you the result. I've been here long enough when people used to stand to do that. It's a long time ago, mind you. They used to do a lot of things. They're just checking the numbers. Yeah. Everybody voted, I guess.
Right, so the results of that vote, Mr. Deputy Mayor, 8 in favour, 37 against, and 9 abstentions. Therefore, the motion is defeated. Recommendation 1.
Recommendation 1 then has failed, so we skip 2, as we've agreed. We will go straight to number 3, which is to... Well, do we need a vote on this? But we've agreed a recorded vote, but if everybody says yes, it's recorded.
Agreed.
Are we all agreed? There's no dissent?
All agreed?
Is it all agreed? Nobody's disagreeing or abstaining? Oh, well, we'll have to have a...
Yeah, we'll have to go then.
We'll have to go for a recorded vote. I'll just double check that.
Do we have to do a recorded vote unless you
Is there only one abstention?
Only 1 abstention and everybody else is agreed. Is that correct?
That's fine.
That's fine then. That in effect is a recorded vote. That everybody else is agreed and will be named as agreed. And Councillor Imtiaz Ali is an abstention. I will also add myself to that abstention list because I'm not voting through the meeting as chair. Okay, we're happy with that?
Yep.
Is that all right? Thanks. That saved us a few minutes. I am assuming, although we never answered the question, of who is going to lobby government. But I shall leave it to the chair of the licensing committee to discuss that with whoever he needs to discuss it with. And that might be the leader of the council, perhaps, and other members of the licensing committee. Just strikes me that we haven't actually agreed who's doing it. Just by the by. Okay. Bear with a moment.
Just let people know.
Okay, so if you are watching online, because I know people are glued to the internet at this time of night, I'm a Celebrity doesn't start for another 50 minutes. The live stream is a bit dodgy. I don't know whether that's the content or the technicalities. So, we will move to the Constitution and Ethics Committee on the Council's Champions Protocol. And Councillor Samantha Hemorrhage, would you like to move the recommendations, please?
Mr. Deputy Mayor,
yes.
If there's an issue with the live stream, in line with our standing orders, should we not take a break after the 2 hours is started since the meeting concluded?
I think we're so close to the end, I'm trying to move things on. Is there anybody
on the Constitution and Ethics Committee? Thank you.
And do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Strangward, I believe it's you. Welcome.
It is. Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'd be happy to second that.
Lovely. Can I call on any other speakers for this debate? Or is it agreed? Agreed? No dissent? We'll take that as unanimous then. Thank you very much. Just getting an up-to-date item. I've exercised my discretion as the Chair and Deputy Mayor tonight and have accepted. This is an important role, as you know. So, Councillor Steve Allen, as Chair of the Employment Committee, would you like to move the recommendations?
Indeed, I would, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's the appointment of Section 151 officer in accordance with the Local Authority Standing Orders England Regulation 2001 under Section 151 of the Local Government Act 1972. Every local authority must make arrangements for the proper administration of their financial affairs and must secure one of their officers to have responsibility for the administration of those affairs, known as a Section 151 duties. All matters relating to the appointment of Section 151 officer are reserved to the full council. I'll continue. The duties relating to Section 151 officer currently fall under the remit of the post of Executive Director for Corporate Services and the Chief Finance Officer. Following a meeting on the 2nd of December 2024, the Council's Employment Committee have recommended that a full Council appoint Christine on a permanent basis to the role of Section 151 officer. We only have Christine there, but I'm sure the rest will be revealed as I carry on reading.
I believe it's Marshall. It threw me for a second as well.
Christine qualified with Chartered Institute of Public Finance Accountancy in 1994. She's gained a vast amount of knowledge and experience working in a number of senior finance roles, has experience in organisational leadership, public engagement and strategic financial management. She had demonstrated significant achievements in leading local government lobbying efforts, managing complex financial portfolios and overseeing substantial transformation change programs, as well as strong commitment to public service, innovative partnerships and continuous improvement, with a focus on supporting vulnerable populations. Christine is well positioned to drive our council forward with its priorities. And the report I've got for you continues. The report is presented to you with a request that you formally appoint Christine, whoever the surname is, to a permanent role of Executive Director of Corporate Services and Chief Finance Officer, and that she undertakes the S151 duties on behalf of the Council. Cecilia will continue with post 157 responsibilities until her termination in March 2025, at which time Christine will then resume those responsibilities. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
We'd been stopped for 5 minutes. Councillor Jamil, do you wish to second this?
I certainly do. I think Christine Marshall will be an excellent
Oh, Christine Marshall is watching. So, Christine, we do know who you are, honestly. I've spread the word. Who's Cecile, by the way? No, I've never heard of the woman. Okay, all right. So, presumably you're reserving your right to speak. Oh, Gavin, Elsie, sorry, point of order.
Thank you, Chair. Can you just clarify what 157 responsibilities are? Because in my understanding, are they 151?
I think maybe he misspoke, Councillor Elsie, and he really means 151. But thank you for highlighting his shortcomings. So, do we need to discuss this, or are we all agreed on this appointment? A lot of people have spent a lot of time on this. Yep. That's unanimously agreed, I believe, which is great. So, Dan, one save for you. Okay, we move then to item agenda number 10, which is the record of executive decisions starting on pages 63 to 66. So, Dennis, oh, hang on, he hasn't even introduced it yet. Councillor Dennis Jones, as the leader, will introduce this item, and any questions will be answered by him unless he refers them to another member. I would remind councillors that you should ask questions on the decisions in the reports. All questions should be relevant to the decision itself. Should I feel that any preamble is unreasonably long, Councillor Hogg, I will instruct councillors to ask their question immediately. Can members please note that once I've moved on from questions, we won't be accepting them from the previous pages, so keep up. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you please introduce the item?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. They are as they are, and you're doing a fine job, and I'm more than happy for you to continue. Thank you.
So, I will take each page in turn. Be sharp with Rachel here, she's writing you down. Could members please refer to the title or reference number of the decision when asking a question, and particularly the page, if you're on the same one, would be helpful. So we'll start on page 63. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We can't all be short and sweet. So, in terms of the translation services, I see, in fact, actually, that there are a number of decisions throughout this paper that have the same problem from my point of view. We're authorising the executive director to be able to extend the contract in 2 years' time. For a further, 4 years' time, for up to a further 2 years. I just feel that this should be a decision for Cabinet, specifically, and no offence, Dennis, but it may well be that in 4 years' time there may be a different leader from a different party, and they may want to make changes. So it seems to me that this should be something that should go back to Cabinet for them to decide at the time, and not just be pushing things over to officers to allow them to make decisions in 4 years' time. It's just a matter of putting it in a calendar and then, at the relevant time, making the decision. We've got this one. We've got the one on care and support at Bishop's Court. We've got the same going for the CCTV. I think it's a trend that we need to stop.
4 years, optimistic. I'm talking months. 4, maybe. Go on, Dennis.
Perish the thought, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that there'd be a change of leadership at any point in the next 4 years. But no, these are not. This is delegated authority, and they are taken by the Cabinet. They're discussed in Cabinet, and Councillor Hogg has been in those meetings. And you know, in terms of the translation service, that will be tapered off anyway. I'm not quite sure. Anybody want to pick that up? Councillor Cole, please.
Hello, thank you, and thank you for your question, Councillor Hogg, and through you, Deputy Mayor. So the translation service, when it came to Cabinet, it was discussed as to the procurement to make sure that it's good value for money. The service is actually used mainly by children's services to enable parents to communicate with officers, social workers and other health professionals, similar with my colleague, Councillor Kayoum, services to ensure that they can fully understand what it is they are either agreeing to, need to do, or what is happening to them. It helps us meet our responsibilities to ensure those that don't have English as a first language, and it supports the most vulnerable. But I can reassure you that during the Cabinet meeting, and if the Cabinet meeting was on the 15th of October, it's all live streamed, so therefore it will have been saved and you can go back and have a look. The questions from my fellow Cabinet members were very robust, and they were answered by not only the Director for Children's Services, but they were answered by our Section 151 officer in terms of the financing and how it was procured.
Thank you. Okay. If it's on the same issue. Okay.
So I think you've missed my point. My point is not the validity of the decision that was made at Cabinet to procure this service. What I am saying is, why are we authorising officers to take a decision in 4 years' time to be able to decide whether or not to extend the service further? This should be a matter for the Cabinet at that time, and by making this decision, you are taking away that responsibility from the Cabinet that is in place in 4 years' time. That is what I'm trying to say. It seems to have crept in as being the standard, and it's not democratic.
Oh, who's coming back? Hang on, Dennis, are you pointing to somebody? Councillor Kayoum, is that right? Yeah.
So I take on board what Councillor Hogg has said. Actually, all decisions are taken, and in terms of the Bishop's Court advice and guidance has also been sought from legal services throughout the procurement process. And the procurement has been undertaken in line with Regulation 27 of the Public Contract Regulations 2015. So I think it's really important to understand that when that contract expires, then a process, the reason why that the extension is then given, it's not solely taken by the officers, it always is taken in consensus with the cabinet member. We have the opportunity to look at those reports and then ask the relevant questions. That is the procedure that entails authorisation of these reports. We are aware of all of these reports. It doesn't foolproof that this is going to be extended further. It gives us the option of having a look at how efficiently the service has been delivered.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Just by the by, the only item that members need to be present on in terms of voting is the motion. So if any of you do want to slip out to the loo or take a comfort break for a couple of minutes, please feel free to do so, okay? Because I don't want to hold up the proceedings. I'll move to page 64. Oh, sorry, Councillor Wiggin. Yeah, 63, was it?
Yeah, 63.
I didn't see you at the corner of my eye.
It's on 64 as well because it crosses the page. Fletton Quays Hotel business case, Mr Deputy Mayor. There's a very strong public perception that the council has lost an absolute ton of money on this. Obviously, the papers for this were not publicly available, rightly so, but could the Cabinet assure the public that we have not lost an absolute load of money on this?
That'll be an interesting answer. Councillor Jones.
Yes, I take on board what you've said. It's work in progress, Councillor Wiggin, and we are now paying we've sowed the wind and now reaping the whirlwind. Do you want to pick this up, Jamil? Yeah?
Yeah, like you said, a lot of this is commercially sensitive. So it's one of those ones that we can't go into at the moment. As soon as we're able to, we will do so.
Right. Okay, so that was partially 63, officially 64. Councillor Hogg.
This relates to the asset review. Decision number 3, which says delegate authority in accordance with the financial regulations and the constitution to the Executive Director of Corporate Services for the disposal of all commercial assets. I do hope that this is poorly worded, that only those that which have been authorised by the Cabinet, presumably. Could I have some clarification on that, please?
Councillor Jones, would you like to clarify?
I will be delighted to, Mr Deputy Mayor. The fact of the matter is, if we did an asset review line by line by line, we'd still be in that Cabinet meeting. We delegated it to the to RS 151 officer, and all these...
To clarify, if all 5 extra care housing schemes, including those at St Edmund's Court and Bishopsfield, are now under Atlas Care Services?
The answer is yes.
Oh, I'm glad. Very short. Well done. 64, anything else before we move on finally? So 65, page 65. It's like bingo. No, that's panto. Okay. 66, well, there's not a great deal in 66. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, Dennis. Accommodation strategy, nothing. Okay. 66, there's a 6 missing off there, I think, but there you go. Okay, well, move on then quickly. I don't think this will take us long. Agenda item number 11, which is reports from the constituent council representatives of the combined authority, and they are Councillor Dennis Jones, Councillor Hemraj, Councillor Thulborn and Councillor Day. Links were provided to those reports that people could study, and apparently they did actually work. Rachel confirmed today, so I'm not seeing anybody with any questions on the combined authority. Oh, Councillor Hogg, hang on. Yeah, spoke too soon.
Full service will be confirmed. This is a question for Councillor Day. I note that there is something about the Opportunity Fund, which I believe is something that is not just open to the council, but is also open to community groups as well. I was just wondering if Councillor Day could just fund us with a bit of meat on the bone, just explain what it's about and how people can apply.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg, for the question. Yeah, on the Environment and Sustainable Communities Committee, they've decided this year to have they've opened a £1 million Climate Change Opportunity Fund to support innovative, collaborative and impactful capital projects that align with the region's climate action plan. Applications were opened on Monday, the 25th of November. The application deadline is Friday, the 17th of January. The funding is aiming to empower local authorities, parish councils, community organisations, not-for-profit and
else. Have we had a response from the Chancellor? Thank you.
Okay, so this is a board decision, so Dennis, that would fall to you, and it concerns items on page 71, headed motions number 8.
Yes, that it has gone to the board, and yes, it has been agreed. Is that what you were looking for?
Well, it was whether you had a response from government yet about how you're going to support the ones that don't get the winter fuel payment.
Which paragraph is it in, Councillor Skipstead? It might help.
The bottom of page 71.
Okay. The authority resolves to, Dennis.
I'm not aware of a response being received, but I will chase it up for you, Heather.
Because we are in the middle of winter, so...
I think, to be specific, I don't know where the meeting was, 25th of October, request that the Mayor and all board members sign a joint letter to the Chancellor of the Exchequer asking that government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, particularly those who do not claim pension credit, are protected from fuel poverty as part of its Warm Homes Plan, as well as considering what support is being given to help, etc., etc. So that's what Councillor Skipstead is asking, was that done?
Oh yes, that was done. We haven't had a response to my certain knowledge.
There you go.
So in the meantime, when we get requests, are we supposed to refer them to the Household Support Fund, or what is the idea?
Refer it to Rachel Reeves, care of the House of Commons.
Mr Deputy Mayor, we've also sent a letter from Peterborough City Council to which we've yet to receive a response.
Okay, so no response. I think in terms of, on a serious note, in terms of fuel poverty and all those other things, we as a council are doing a lot of work on that. We always have done, regardless of what's happened in terms of government. So our officers, and I guess it would be through Adrian, I suspect, and his team, that you can point anybody to the services that the council provide. And Adrian, can you ensure that Councillor Skipstead has the necessary contacts for those suffering fuel poverty?
Thank you. I did pass on to the Household Support Fund, but I'm not aware of anything else at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, Councillor Ellis, point of what?
Just a point of, information. I'm the representative on the Transport and Infrastructure Committee for Combined Authority, but it's not listed in any of the papers you have here. Is that because there's a cut-off date? I went to the meeting on the 4th of November, and I don't know why I'm not listed.
We get supplied this information, am I right? Councillor Ellis asked a question about why there isn't something in the papers on a committee that he's on. We get supplied this from the Combined Authority, so it may not be ready, I suspect. Okay? But ask next time by all means. Okay, now, we asked, I was going to say we asked everybody to go to the loo, or he's back. Is anybody else missing that wasn't here a moment ago? Because if we move on to the next agenda item, you have to be present in the room to vote. So we haven't started item 12, which is motions on notice. We're heading towards the end. We're making good progress, folks. And hopefully everybody's gone to the loo that needed to go to the loo, because we like to keep things moving. Right, so we've received one motion on notice from Councillor Steve Allen tonight. It's very unusual, must be Christmas. Councillor Allen, would you like to move your motion as set out in the agenda tonight?
Yes, I will move the motion and speak now, if I may, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Well, I hope you will, otherwise nobody will know what it's about.
Well, indeed. Well, they could read it, couldn't they? So I'm putting this motion forward, but I am looking around the council at the various parties, and whilst I realise the Labour are unlikely to support this because they will not want to vote against their government, but I do hope that there is some concern for the plight of our farmers and the rural communities within the authority, and that a display of empathy could be afforded perhaps by at least abstaining. Now, the Liberal Democrats, if you look at their website, it says, back our campaign against the family farm tax today. So I'm hoping that the Liberal Democrats will support this motion. Looking to the front of me, the Greens, their co-leader, Adrian Ramsey, has said the government needs to have another look at what's got planned. So I'm sure my Green Party colleagues in this chamber will be actually conscious of the contribution the small farmers make to our food security and biodiversity. I hope I can also rely on the support from members of Peterborough First, many of whom are, of course, my erstwhile colleagues, and several of whom are elected by the votes of those in rural wards, and therefore sympathetic to the challenges of those affected in those rural wards. The farm tax will penalise not only farmers, but also have long-term implications which will affect the wider rural community. It's important we recognise the threat to the businesses and suppliers that are reliant on the industry, not just agricultural suppliers, but also the small businesses, including shops, pubs, cafes, restaurants, all of which are part of a rural economy and threatened by this spiteful family farms tax. It's time the government scrapped the tax and stood by British farmers. And to echo Kemi Badenoch, the government should do the right thing and back our farmers. Members, can we do the same and support this motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Do you have a seconder for that motion?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm happy to second, and I will reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much. So,
Peter's got a point.
Kel surprise, Dennis. What can I do for you?
Multum in parvo, Councillor. Mr Deputy Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the proposed motion in accordance with section 20.1D of Council Standing Orders. It's interesting that the Tory party was formed over 200 years ago for the have landowners to continue to have. It appears nothing has changed in all that time, and here we are again, this time with a badly worded boilerplate motion designed purely for political point scoring rather than dealing with the effects of 14 years of conservative mismanagement of the economy nationally. This council notes that there is no such thing as a family farm tax, and therefore the original motion is misleading to councillors and residents of Peterborough. Accurate information is essential to political debate, and claims must be fact-checked to avoid unnecessary alarm or the spread of misinformation. This council notes that the government's recent reforms in agricultural property relief, APR, and business property relief, BPR, announced in the autumn budget aim to ensure fairness while protecting smaller farms. This means that full 100% relief from inheritance tax will continue to apply to the first £1 million of combined agriculture and business property, with land above the value tax at a reduced rate of 20%, payable interest-free over 10 years. Nearly 3/4 of estates claiming APR will not be affected, with reforms targeting the wealthiest estates while ensuring smaller farms remain protected.
Councillor Jones, pause. Councillor Mohammed Farouk, you have a point.
Yeah.
I hope it's worthwhile, but I've stopped him.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Earlier you mentioned that to Councillor Ali that he couldn't introduce any amendment because the deadline for the amendment...
That was because it was a petition, not a motion.
Petition. You could introduce amendments to this one.
On motions, not petitions. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk, and Mayor, if I can continue. Nearly 3/4 of estates claiming APR will not be affected, with reforms targeting the wealthiest estates while ensuring smaller farmers remain protected. The Council welcomes these changes alongside the government's broader farming support, including £5 billion for sustainable food production and £60 million for recovery efforts. I therefore wish to propose that this motion be referred to the relevant Scrutiny Committee. The basis for referral is the motion doesn't show the impact on Peterborough farms. This surely means that the report has to come first, as I couldn't write a letter to anyone without knowing the impact locally. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Ooh. Sounded very political to me, but have you got a seconder? Councillor Jamil, are you happy to second? And do you want to speak now or reserve your right to speak?
I'm happy to second and reserve my right.
Folks, we've had a proposal duly submitted. So we would debate now whether or not Council wants to refer this, and I believe it's to growth scrutiny, I've just taken advice, or we don't do that and we proceed with the original motion. Correct? So, wait a minute, hang on.
Sorry, Mr Deputy Mayor, can I confirm, so it's to refer the matter to another body, not an amendment as the
Correct.
council leader originally said?
It's a yes, procedural motion that Councillor Hogg is famous for using. I was going to say, Councillor Jones, you've been talking to Nick Sanford by any chance, because I don't know where you suddenly learn all this procedure and protocol. Right. Councillor Hogg, do you want to kick off the debate on whether or not we move?
Well, I don't mind kicking off the debate, but I believe that the procedure is that we debate the motion, but we then.
I'm told not, which is why I said.
We did have a change where we were debating the motion and the amendment at the same time, and then you then vote upon the amendment.
Okay. So if people are following what I'm saying,
it's on amendments, all right? Okay.
It's a procedural motion.
I stand corrected.
Again, so, folks, as I was trying to explain, we will debate, if there is debate, as to whether or not this should be referred to scrutiny. Okay? And that scrutiny would be growth. If that motion falls, then we go back to the substantive motion of Councillor Allen's. So, do I have any speakers to debate Councillor Jones's proposal? Councillor Hogg.
As I've already written it, I was expected to second the motion, but never mind. Speaking basically on this motion, it seems to me very generic. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it cropping up around Cambridgeshire and even across the country from our Conservative colleagues. What it doesn't address is what the actual impact on Peterborough farmers will be. Without that information, it's difficult to assess if this motion is warranted for us here in Peterborough. I'm not saying that the motion isn't valid elsewhere in the country. But what I would like to see as a councillor, to know what the actual impact on Peterborough farmers is. How many farms are we talking about? How many farms are tenanted, for instance, within Peterborough? How many is this just landowners of farms that tenant out their farm properties? So that's the reason for the referral. What it does do is it gives us pause. It gives us the opportunity to have officers basically get those facts before us so that we can make an informed choice as to whether or not Peterborough has an issue with this policy. So with that in mind, I will be supporting the course of action in terms of putting it to growth and communities so that it can be properly looked at. I think this is an important thing to debate. And it needs to have facts behind it.
Thanks. Okay. Got a few speakers, about 5 so far. I'm trying to move things on. Councillor Ray, you can speak on this separately. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to check, so this is a separate motion, so therefore it's not my right of reply. Just purely based on what the original motion seeks to do, and that is to instruct the council leader to do something. Now, I feel that's not within the power of scrutiny to do, and that is something that only council can ask the council leader to represent council's views. And for that reason, I think it is very clear that if we want to achieve the aims of that motion, then it's only council that has the power to make that happen, whereas the scrutiny committees can only then refer it back to council for us to then do the same thing. So this seems like an attempt to make it disappear and to make sure that this does not have to be done, rather than an attempt to refer it to an appropriate body. It's actually doing the opposite and referring it to a different body to take it out of the limelight. Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
Thanks, Councillor Day.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm actually going to echo what other colleagues have said, that, it states in the motion the family farm tax will damage the ability of farmers to pass on their farms to their children. But yeah, there are no kind of statistics or footnotes. It is really opinion as well. And it calls this Labour's family farm tax. I didn't really believe that that's the name of that it's been given. I think this should go to the Growth, Resources and Scrutiny Committee. I'd like to see, obviously with climate change and food security, I'm really worried about that from a climate angle. But I would like to see some more actual evidence and facts before we take the next step to, take action around this issue. Thank you.
Councillor Hogg, do you have a point? No speech.
So it's a point of explanation in terms of, it goes to Scrutiny Committee for Scrutiny Committee to recommend to full council a course of action. That is what scrutiny is there for. And so it would come back to full council to then either require or not the council leader to write, or some other recommendation that might come out of the Scrutiny Committee.
Okay. Point noted. It's also worth noting, though, that all those members of Scrutiny are in this chamber tonight, so they'll be doing it twice. Not saying that's not an opinion, but that is correct. Councillor John Fox next.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hogg. It would be seen then not to be so politicised, in my opinion. If it goes back to scrutiny, I'm not against the motion, but I am looking at it logically, and I think Councillor Hogg's idea is completely right. If it goes to scrutiny, then they can talk about it and come up how it affects Peterborough as well as the whole country.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Mark Ormston, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Having seen the motion in its original form, I went away, I looked at document speeches and actually spoke to local farmers. And it's worth noting that on the 19th of November, local farmers met with the MP for Peterborough in Westminster to convey their concerns and how it would impact their family businesses. I'm told it was incredibly honest, transparent and moving discussion. Apart from council tenant farms, nearly all other farms in Peterborough will be impacted. This includes Moor Farm and its shop in Newborough and Park Farm in Thorney. One local farmer told me this change will lead to lower investment and ultimately impact the supply chain, with many wider businesses in Peterborough affected. Local farmers accept this is somewhat of a political gift for national opposition parties to jump on, and there will be some generic political messages to be made. However, they want proper and robust discussion on this complex topic. They accept there is a case for some change, but tax avoidance can be tackled without throwing hard-working family farms under the bus. As it's currently written, this policy protects the lifestyle buyer and impacts businesses that produce the food that we all buy in the shops. Inadvertently or otherwise, I believe this policy is capturing the wrong people. With that in mind, I believe the policy in its current form needs to be reviewed with a Peterborough angle. With that being said, I'm happy to support the amended motion.
Great. Two more speakers, which is Councillor Walsh and Councillor Mohammed Farouk. That's all I have so far. So, Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think Councillor Ormston summed up the situation very well, but for the very reasons that he spoke about, I don't support sending it back or kicking it into the long grass or whatever it is the game is being played tonight. We all know the farms are there. We're not asking the leader to write the letter tomorrow. It won't take long to get this information together and do the deed. So all we're asking is that the deed is done. We don't need a scrutiny committee to go round probing. As the councillor behind me has just said, a lot of the work's been done. So what more needs to be done? I spoke the other day to a farmer. He's going to have to sell part of his farm if he wants to hand it on. That means less food production in this area. There are many such cases, and we know that. So I think we should not play games now, bouncing this around. Just simply get on with it. Collect the data, it's there, and let's do it. Thank you.
Councillor Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think this procedural change is really kicking the motion into long grass. It's not going to achieve anything. It's trying to refer to a committee which is, as Councillor Ray said, is outside the remit of the committee. And if we do go into that route, we know that that committee is very busy and it's difficult to get these items onto the agenda and could take 6 to 12 months. That would be too late for the farmers. We need to stand up for our farmers now and decide on that. Thank you.
The list is growing. John Howard, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I think as a council here, we're debating national government policy. Now, whether we debate that tonight or through a scrutiny isn't going to change the direction of national government policy. The original motion stands better in that all we're asking us to do collectively as a council is send a letter voicing our support for the farmers. And it doesn't need to embarrass the administration. It's not the administration's decision that has done this to farmers. It's central government. It's difficult decisions which are really the undercover of bad decisions. And all we need to do collectively as a council is send a message to say we support our farmers in Peterborough.
Councillor Elsey.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. I agree with the comments from Councillor Ormston, Councillor Walsh, and to some degree Councillor Howard. And I also agree that this isn't something which the local Labour Party has dreamt up. However, the diatribe from the leader was very, very Labour-centric and fairly disingenuous, in my opinion. I have 3 farmers in my ward that I've spoken to about this, one of whom, Robbie Reid, was actually interviewed on the TV in front of the Houses of Parliament when 10,000 farmers went down to make their views known. People are talking about wanting to know the impact. Go and talk to them. They'll tell you what the impact is. They're going to lose their farms potentially. So I don't hold any crux for kicking this into the long grass or sending it to a scrutiny panel for them to then come back for us to debate again. We need to do something to support our farmers, and we need to do it now.
Thank you. I have Councillor Steve Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm hearing a lot of very sensible comments in here. Not certainly the response from the leader, which was overtly political, telling the chamber that my motion was off the shelf. It may be somewhat generic in as much that the feelings throughout the farming community and those of us that represent farming communities are much the same. So I think that this idea of kicking it into the long grass of a scrutiny committee is bonkers. The motion's before you. Make a decision on the motion and throw out this need to go round the houses to kick it into a scrutiny meeting. That's very silly, very silly. We've had thousands of farmers march to London. We've got dozens, scores of farmers in our own city and around the Peterborough area, and their views need to be understood. So I say kick out this ridiculous motion and come back to the substantive motion. Thank you.
That was all the people I had down to speak, so I'm going to move swiftly on. And again, we'll use the electronic voting system. So I would remind you, we will be voting on Councillor Jones's proposal to move this to scrutiny for a recommendation, which might just bring it back here. Don't know. Who has? Oh, Jamil, sorry. Do you want to say anything, Jamil? Sorry, apologies.
I've just got a few words to say. It's just that Councillor Allen just used the word blatantly political to describe what Councillor Jones has said, which I thought was quite funny, seeing that, you know, when you read the motion, you know, I'll be damned if that hasn't come from Conservative Central Office or a local ex-MP wanting to, you know, further his nest for next year's campaign.
The very suggestion.
Very suggestion, yeah. The thing with this is that motions, we have a procedure on what motions should be and how it affects our city. I don't think, for the reasons that partly Councillor Ormston has set out, we need to have the full facts. We don't have those. And that's the role of scrutiny. So either we do away with scrutiny, because, you know, you can do, and you know, some of the things that I've heard about scrutiny, you know, kicking into long term, you know, it's almost like saying they're a waste of time, which I find quite worrying. For me, this motion makes sense. We go to scrutiny, and it's not about kicking into long term. It's actually having a proper structure. And when it comes back, you know, and if it comes back with the right reasons, we never know, we may support it. So for that reason, I would back Councillor Jones's amendment.
Thank you. Sorry, my haste to move things on. Councillor Jones, do you want to sum up your motion before we move to a vote?
I agree with Councillor Jamil. A motion should be, we are Peterborough City Council, and I think what we should have the facts and figures in front of us about how this affects Peterborough, and at that point, as I did with the winter fuel allowance, then I would support writing to the government. But just a generic motion, I just can't support. I'm sorry.
Right. Now we'll move to the vote. I'm trying to move us on. It's getting towards... I've got a little sweepstake going on the dais here about the time. Looks like I've lost. Right. So Dan, do you want to take over? You all know the drill and the colours to use, but Dan, explain away.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Can, when the buttons start flashing, can members please record their vote? Green in favour, yellow abstain, and red against. On the procedural motion to refer it to the relevant
We are voting
body.
on Councillor Jones's motion to move to growth scrutiny. Move the item to growth scrutiny. Who's not voted? Who? Councillor Dowson, you haven't voted yet. There are 32 in favour, 21 against, and 2 abstentions. And one of those would be mine. I'd like to guess the other one, but I don't know. So there we go. So Councillor Jones's motion is passed. The item will move to growth scrutiny for a Sorry, Councillor Fox, do you want to say something? No. Okay. I thought you were waving at me. That's right. Hello. We're all happy with that. So that is it. And no doubt we'll see the item back here for the very same discussion. By the way, I would like to slightly disagree with Councillor Ormston. They wouldn't be thrown under a bus, but it might be a combine harvester. Because that you're more likely to find one of those on the farm, not a bus. Just small point, but just... Right, okay. Right, we have item 13A, which is the annual public health report. I know you'll all be glued to your seats for this. As Councillor Shabina Qayyum, would you like to therefore introduce and move the recommendations of the annual public health report?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'd be absolutely delighted to move the report, if I may. So, as co-chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board and lead member of Adults and Health, I'm delighted to present the second annual report of the joint Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Health and Wellbeing and Integrated Care Partnership. Meaningful progress requires a long-term commitment, and improvements to health outcomes are made over time. The report sets out ways in which we have begun to understand how progress and change can be best assessed. The report outlines progress on the 4 strategic themes set out in the strategy. Number 1, ensuring children are ready to enter and exit education prepared for the next stage in their lives. Number 2, creating healthy environments. Number 3, reducing poverty through better employment, skills and housing. And number 4, promoting early intervention and prevention to improve mental well-being. One area of significance for Peterborough City Council is the widening of the scope of Priority 3 around reducing poverty and the acknowledgement of the need to embed the findings of the Poverty Truth Commission across all the priority areas in the Health and Wellbeing Board strategy. Overall, we're showing good progress. There are improvements in children's early development and in the NEET rates as young people move into adulthood. The latest data on children's excess weight shows a welcome, though small, movement in the right direction, although inequalities are actually increasing. And adult physical activity is increasing, though children's activity has fallen. Trends in poverty and economic activity should be more visible soon when new data is available. And unfortunately, where there is recent data on children and adults' mental health, these indicators are worsening, with a drop in the proportion of adults who feel that life is worthwhile. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thorburn, I understand you wish to second this report. I know it was news to you, but you are.
Thank you very much. I'd like a second that, Deputy. Thank you.
Fine. So, are there any speakers? Or are we agreeing this report? Is it all agreed? Yeah. Are you happy, folks? You said everything you needed to say? Good. Happy. There we go. Great. So we'll take that as agreed unanimously. So Dan, another one off the list for you. The 13B item on the agenda is the Independent Improvement Panel update. There is nobody from the panel here. We thought there might have been, because there normally has been. So if you have any questions, I think the Chief Executive will be able... It's only to note to the extension, but if anybody wanted to know anything, I'm sure we can get an answer from Matt if it was anything. But okay, so 13B, Councillor Dennis Jones, would you therefore like to move that recommendation of this report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I would like to move the recommendation that we extend the improvement panel until the end of the financial year, not the calendar year. Thank you.
And Councillor Jamil, are you happy to second? Speak
Happy
now
second,
or reserve?
Happy second, and reserve my right to speak.
Okay. Is that agreed? It's just to note the extent. Oh, Councillor Farouk.
Just point of accuracy there. Is it end of financial year or is it 2 months to February?
It's till February, as it says in the report. Yeah. I think basically...
So financial year is the end of March, you see.
I think it's the financial year as in it would be wrapped up by then, even though it's not till April as such. Councillor Walsh.
Yes, thank you very much. Just an observation. I think sure we're all grateful for the work that's been done by this independent panel. It's got us through some really hard times on all sides of the chamber. I think we would echo that we are grateful for what they've done. My question really is about, well, we're in very challenging times, and yet they're leaving in a few months' time. Was there any consideration given to extending this beyond the end of the financial year?
I suppose Councillor Jones could answer that as such, because it would be, you're it.
Yes, I think that I quite agree with you, Councillor Walsh. The panel has been extremely useful for us, but like everything, it has a shelf life. I think it behoves us as a council and councillors. I think we're agreed that panel has taken us as far as we can go, and it behoves us as a council and councillors now to carry on the work that they've done. And there may be some further oversight needed, but I think those people, their work is done. It's now down to us, and you've heard many arguments tonight about assets and all the various things. We have a job to do, and they have exhorted us to do it, and that is what we must continue to do. It's in our gift, not theirs.
Are you indicating you wish to speak, Councillor Ray?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Just as a follow-up for that, if their work's done, why do they need 2 more months? What difference is that ultimately going to make? We're going to continue with the budget as we would have done without them anyway. What difference does it make, really?
It's a very fine question, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I shall answer the question.
Okay.
If I put my group leader hat on, there was a collective view in terms of group leaders, that seemed to be the best idea in terms of tying up all the loose ends, making it coterminous with the budget process, because it's really meant to be about the budget process being finalised, not the financial year. That's a kind of red herring. But they're one and the same thing in reality, even though the financial year is April. So there was a collective view by group leaders. I'm sure they won't mind me speaking on behalf of everybody that seemed to be a sensible and practical thing to do. Councillor Ray, I hope that answers your question. Councillor Imtiaz Ali.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This extension of 2 months, there's going to be a cost implication for the in-year budget, and I appreciate that leaders have met and agreed to this extension, but it'd be useful to know what the in-year budgetary impact would be of this.
Okay, I think we covered it in FSWG, I'm pretty sure. However, not for tonight. I'm sure the 151 officer will email you and all other members as to the extra costs involved with the 2 months. However, it wouldn't have been agreed unless it could have been covered by budget. Okay? Because we don't do that. That's it. So, any need for a vote, or are we all agreed? Agreed? Is it agreed? Right, fine. It seems to be unanimous. Thanks for your comments on that, though. So, the big item we've all been waiting for at the end of the evening, 13C, which is the inspirational Councillor Katie Coles and her words of wisdom on the Children's Improvement Board update.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. I'm delighted to be able to share with members that the Children's Services Improvement Board met on the 30th of October, and I can now share key updates on the improvement work taking place across the service. Since I was last able to update you, the Department for Education have undertaken their 6-monthly review and have shared their findings with leaders, and a separate review of the Children with Disabilities Service has also been completed. I'm pleased to share that the DFE review highlighted a number of positive areas for improvement, including a positive cultural shift, that staff feel more invested and supported, and that the service is developing its own child-centred identity. Similarly, the review of the Children with Disabilities Service shared some positive feedback and emphasised that there is a strong focus on the child's voice and effective management oversight and decision-making in the service. Alongside this, some recommendations to support the improvement journey were also identified. These are being taken forward by leaders and will be included in the overarching improvement plan. As members will be aware, Ofsted is a standing item at the Improvement Board and an opportunity for board members to have oversight on the progress being made against the improvement plan, and for leaders to highlight any areas of risk. Board members noted the trajectory of improvement, but that there are continued challenges around recruitment and capacity, which reflects the national picture in terms of social workers and workforce recruitment. Work to improve children's services performance is ongoing and continues to be monitored through the Improvement Board. I'm pleased to be able to share with members that the MASH transformation is progressing well, and whilst there are continued challenges around workforce sufficiency, staffing improvements, including new permanent team managers, are supporting this. The board heard that the health are now co-located in the MASH, and the police colleagues will be joining shortly. As part of the development and implementation of a family valued programme here in Peterborough, Leeds City Council has been working with Children's Services to provide support with areas of improvement. As part of this, Leeds have delivered coaching conversations to staff and managers in the MASH, and specific training for leaders and managers is currently underway. Leaders are working with Leeds to develop a targeted learning and development offer that will support the improvement journey and will run throughout 2025. I look forward to being able to share more information about this in due course. Finally, it was agreed by board members that from next year the board will move to an 8-weekly cycle to align with other reporting cycles in children's services. As ever, if you'd like more information, please ask. We are talking about Peterborough's children, and we are all their parents.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Members, that's Cole. Before we get in trouble. That concludes more or less the meeting tonight. We'll now all join in together with "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." I think the words will appear on screen. You've all got your best singing voices on?
Would you like us to stand, Deputy Mayor?
No. In all seriousness, though, folks, on behalf of the Mayor, Marco, who I'm sure would have loved to have been here, and myself as Deputy Mayor and Angie, we would like to wish all members, officers and residents in Peterborough a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we look forward to seeing you all again on the 22nd of January. But for now, I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you, and that concludes this evening's meeting.